Sean McDonough at Cunningham at historic Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. Clemson and Georgia Tech. Each of the last 5 meetings between these two teams has been decided by exactly 3 points. George O'Leary and the Yellow Jackets have won the last 4. Tommy Bowden and the Clemson Tigers won the opening coin toss and elected to defer. So Georgia Tech will receive the opening kickoff. Kelly Campbell, number 6. Kerry Watkins, number 9, back deep for the kick.
A little interesting, Sean. Tommy Bowden decided to put out a very young defense. They want to see early on if they can take advantage of these young guys, maybe some energy, bring some heat on George Godsey of Georgia Tech and try to make a big play.
Beautiful day in Atlanta as Tony Lazzara, a junior from St. Petersburg, Florida, gets ready to kick off with a slight wind at his back. Hardly a cloud in the sky. Temperature near 70 degrees. The anticipated high 73 in Atlanta this afternoon. A sellout crowd on hand, nearly 42,000. High and good kick down to the 3 to Kelly Campbell. Right up the hash marks and stopped short of the 18-yard line. Good coverage by Clemson. Joel Gardner, a reserve wide receiver. First down on special teams. Here's Leslie Goodell.
I talked to Coach O'Leary before the game started and asked him if he had concerns with the fact that they haven't played in 3 weeks. He said coaches are always concerned, but the positives are they're healthy and they've been able to practice their fundamentals. The negatives, they're not facing any competition. He said we'll see how they handle the speed of the game.
They come in at 3-0, but this will be the most serious test for the Yellow Jackets so far. Best opponent to date, Syracuse. George Godsey passing on the first play from scrimmage, complete to Jonathan Smith, a sophomore from Argyle, Georgia. Short gain on the play out to the 21-yard line.
Right away, we see Bill O'Brien, the offensive coordinator for Georgia Tech, spreading it out a little bit. You know, against Syracuse, they kind of kept things close to the vest, and George Godsey very efficient in this offense. 63% on his career, Sean. He's over 72% so far this season, completion percentage.
Leading the nation in pass efficiency this year. Gain of 3, 2nd and 7. The short drop by Godsey and the short pass to the 24-yard line, complete to Kelly Campbell. It'll be 3rd down and short. The rest of the Georgia Tech offense up front: Kimball, Roberts, Blake, Schmidgall, Riley, and Bennett. A good offensive line. Joe Burns, their leading ball carrier. Ross Mitchell, for the most part, a blocker. Great wide receivers in Watkins and Campbell, and the tight end is Matt Bay. 3 wide receivers into the game on 3rd down. Godsey over the middle. It's dropped right at the first down marker. The running back Joe Burns couldn't hang on. So 3 plays and a punt for Georgia Tech.
And here's the little thing, Sean, that you're going to start to see as we look at Clemson's defensive line. McNeil, Eason, and Bush, they were question marks coming in with the injuries. Linebacker leader is obviously Chad Carson, an academic All-American with Leak, and Thomas Leak plays a star safety. Mance the corner, Johnson, Williams back to free safety, and Hayfley, strong safety, and will see some time at corner.
And Dyke on the punt. Into the breeze. Nice punt. Flag down. They might have hit the kicker. Brian Mance stacked up at the 32-yard line. In all likelihood, this is going to be a first down for Georgia Tech. Looked like Russell Matvey ran into the kicker.
5 yards, running into the kicker on the defense. They have first down.
And Sean, when you have young players, they need to be aware. You know, you've already got young guys on defense for Clemson. Younger guys on special teams, because usually your first teamers aren't there. They've got to be careful. When it's under 5 yards for the first down, they got to know when to pull off. That's just not good, smart football by Clemson early in the ball game.
There are 2 Tigers ran into him. Looked like Torrey White and Ray Francis. Francis blocked the punt against Georgia Tech last year. Russell Matvey made the tackle. 58-yard punt wiped out. Happily so, as far as the Yellow Jackets are concerned, and they have a first down at their own 29-yard line. the ball carrier. Out to the 32 where he ran into Chad Carson, a senior who grew up right down the road in Noonan, Georgia in the Atlanta suburbs.
And Carson's going to have his brain full today. Thankfully, he's a very smart guy, over 3.9 GPA, an academic All-American. With all of these young guys trying to line up against a multi-formation offense, Chad Carson is going to do as much talking today as he is tackling.
Second down and 7. Play action fake by Godsey. And the pass incomplete, intended for Russell Matvey. John Leak, the middle linebacker, had the coverage. And it'll be third down and 7 for Georgia Tech.
This is what Reggie Herring has to hope for. He's got to get pressure with the front 4. Clemson running a zone. Actually dropped the nose guard out. It's a zone blitz. This is one of the new defenses that Georgia Tech thought they might see from Reggie Herring. Right off the bat, they get a zone blitz.
Sidney Ford in at running back now for the Yellow Jackets. Godsey running out of time, and he's sacked. Back at the 25-yard line. Maurice Fountain, a true freshman who's been coming on lately and earning more and more playing time, has the sack.
The one thing George Godsey is usually very good at, he's not the best guy with his feet. Top of your screen working on the right tackle, number 76, Jason Kemble. But Fountain has the speed to get around. The clock, the internal clock of George Godsey has to go off and realize he doesn't have that much time. Even though they're young, Clemson is still very athletic on defense.
So Dyke punts this time, no rush, and another very nice kick into the wind. Joe Don Reams back for the punt this time. Fielded it at the 24 and did well to get to the 27-yard line. 52-yard punt and a 3-yard return. And Ross Mitchell, the starting fullback, down on punt coverage for Georgia Tech. So Clemson goes on offense for the first time. Just more than 3 minutes into the game, led by Woodrow Dantzler, the senior, actually a graduate student now at Clemson University. 30 career games, 58% completion percentage, and more than 4,000 yards passing. Travis Zachary opens as the back. He's playing on a bulky knee and ankle. Was questionable earlier in the week, but is in the starting lineup, and he gains 3 out to the 30-yard line. The offensive line, Smith, Watkins, Young, Merritt, and Bird. It's a veteran group and one of the most talented in the country. Dantzler throwing quickly, swings it out for Derek Hamilton, the redshirt freshman. And he's close to a first down at the 37-yard line. De'Aaron Fox chopped him down. It is a first down for Clemson. Hamilton and McKelvey, along with Matt Bailey, the starters in the 3 wide receiver set. They don't play with a fullback very often. They have a lot of injuries at wide receiver, which we'll chronicle as the game goes along. 4 wideouts right now. Low snap handled by Dantzler. One of the best rushing quarterbacks in the country. Fumbled that time. Greg Gathers knocked it out, and the Yellow Jackets have recovered at the 37-yard line. That's been a huge problem for Dantzler. He turned it over 3 times himself in their upset loss to Virginia last week. And on their first possession, he fumbles again. Alfred Malone recovered the fumble.
And Sean, this happens sometimes for a guy who likes to dance around in the pocket. Really good pressure on the outside. 55, Craig Gathers push in the middle of the pocket that time. But it's Gathers who finishes the play. And Dantzler, he had decided to run with it. He's got to tuck that thing under. He was still holding it out in front. Watch the effort by Gathers. He understands leverage so well. Dips back underneath the tackle Bird. But Woodrow has to tuck that thing away, Sean. He can't have it out in front of him.
We talked with Brad Scott, the offensive coordinator. He said Dantzler's had an exceptional year except for the turnovers, but that's a big if, the way things are going these days for Clemson. Joe Burns, the ball carrier. There's a flag down to the play. Burns down after a gain of 1. And the penalties against the Jackets. Rodney Thomas made the tackle for Clemson. George O'Leary wondering if his team would be a little bit rusty after the 3-week layoff. They're coming off a 70-7 pounding of Navy, the worst loss ever for the Naval Academy.
On the offense, 5 yards, repeat first down.
But that was 3 weeks ago. They had one game postpone the game against Florida State that was to be played September 15th. It will now be played December 1st. Ball back at the 41-yard line, 1st and 15. No score. Sidney Ford, who backs up Burns and is a very capable backup, but no gain on that play. Good penetration along the defensive line, and Rodney Thomas, the linebacker, in on the tackle.
And right away, Reggie Herring, the defensive coordinator for Clemson, has to be happy. He's changing things up. He's shown a zone blitz. That time was a straight man blitz, changing things up quite a bit against Georgia Tech. He knows that Godsey is very good at getting out of bad plays, but Herring has to play to his strength, Sean, and that is he has a lot of young guys who can run around.
Godsey, play action pass. He was looking downfield, but now he's forced to run. That's not his strength. He did pick up yardage across the 40 and down to the 38-yard line. But it'll be a long yardage situation again. Javon Bush made the tackle, and he was a question mark coming into this game with a bruised foot that was stepped on last week during the upset loss at home against Virginia.
Some of those injuries, besides Georgia Tech was wondering how true they really were. And you watch Javon Bush come off the ball, Sean. If he's not 100%, I don't know what is.
3rd down and 13. Less than impressive showing for this high-powered Georgia Tech offense so far. Deep down the middle. Now they're on target. Kerry Watkins with a 1st down at the 11-yard line. 28-yard gain to Watkins. And as fans of both schools well remember, it was Watkins who made the game-winning touchdown catch in the final seconds of that great ball game last year at Clemson.
And Sean, you mentioned a minute ago that George Godsey, one of his strengths is not running. He doesn't have a great arm, but one thing, he is a brilliant quarterback. That time, another zone blitz by Reggie Herring. He knew he had time to throw it and that Watkins would come open down the middle. Did not get scared seeing pressure coming.
It wasn't a frozen rope, but it was on target. Now he lost it to the back of the end zone, incomplete. The general direction of Jonathan Smith. 6 minutes gone by, no score. It's been an error-filled first 6 minutes. And on the latest mistake, the fumble by Dantzler, Georgia Tech trying to capitalize.
Reggie Herring very quickly, his defense is spending a lot of time on the field with that turnover. Early in this ball game, this is a lot of plays for a young defense.
4 wide receivers on 2nd and 10 from the 11-yard line. Inside handoff to Burns. He can play fullback or tailback. He was their leading rusher last year, and 3 seasons ago missed most of the '99 season with a broken ankle. He leads their team this year with 210 yards rushing. He hasn't played very much. They've been so far ahead in 2 out of the 3 ball games against the Citadel and Navy that the backups have had the bulk of the playing time. 3rd down and 4. They can pick up a 1st down right around the 1-yard line. Godsey throws to the end zone, incomplete. Just a little bit low and out of the reach of Will Glover. And here comes the field goal team.
And hats off to Reggie Herring. You know, when we talked to him, Sean, he didn't really tip his hand as to what he wanted to do. Well, the reason he didn't tip his hand is because he's doing a little bit of everything. That time he backed everybody off. There was only 3 receivers out in the route for Georgia Tech, and it seemed like every single one of them was double covered. And Godsey did everything he could just to try to throw that thing low and away and hope somebody could make a play.
Luke Monge, 22-yard field goal right through the middle for the junior from Conyers, Georgia. There with 8:16 left in the first quarter. It's 3-0 Georgia Tech.
The Clemson Tigers kept their drive going on 4th down and 1 with a fake punt. And with just under 4.5 minutes left in the first quarter, Travis Zachary powered 3 yards into the end zone, giving Clemson a 7-3 lead.
We welcome those who have been watching Oklahoma defeat Kansas State to Atlanta. We're in the first quarter. Clemson leads Georgia Tech 7-6. Tech just kicked a field goal of 47 yards by Luke Monge. The subsequent kickoff returned by Brian Mance out to the 30-yard line. For those of you just joining us early in the game, Woodrow Dantzler fumbled. That led to a Georgia Tech field goal, and Chad Jasmine appeared to fumble. Chris Young ran it all the way back for a touchdown, but the play was whistled dead. And a big break for Clemson. The touchdown scored after a fake punt by the Tigers on a 3-yard run by Travis Zachary. A 47-yard field goal added by Tech for the 7-6 score. Swing pass to Derek Hamilton of Clemson. He's out short of a first down at the 39-yard line. Georgia Tech received the opening kickoff and very early did nothing. 3 plays and a punt, but there was a roughing the punter penalty that gave Tech the ball again, but they went 3 plays and punt again. That's when Clemson got the ball and Dantzler fumbled. Here's Dantzler on second down and short. Calls his own number. There's a flag down. Dantzler into Georgia Tech territory at the 41-yard line. After that fumble, they drove all the way down to the 5-yard line to the Yellow Jackets. The big play, a 28-yard pass from George Godsey to Kerry Watkins. This will come back on a holding call.
On the offense, 10 yards, previous spot, repeat second down.
Monjay kicked the field goal of 22 yards, made it 3-0. Then you saw the non-fumble with Jasmine of Clemson. Right after that, Tommy Bowden called for a fake punt on 4th and 1. They just picked it up. And then Clemson marched down to the 3-yard line. The big play, a 20-yard run by Dantzler. That set up the touchdown run you saw by Zachary. Then moments ago, Georgia Tech got a 43-yard kickoff return by Kelly Campbell. A 25-yard run by Sidney Ford to get them into Clemson territory. And then Monjay kicked the 47-yard field goal. And that's everything that's happened in this game up till right now.
That's an awful lot for 7-6.
It is. It's been
it sounded like it was about
35-21.
I think they're going to get Ben Hall, true freshman, tight end, flinched a little bit.
Red ball, full start, on the offense, 5 yards, second down.
Well, both teams have made some big mistakes already. And one of the reasons that Tommy Bowden's Tigers are 2-1 instead of 3-0 after the upset loss last week against Virginia. Penalties and turnovers. So we need to improve in both areas. So far today they have not, but they do have the lead. And they're backing up to their own 24, and Dantzler is sacked by Gary Johnson. The junior from LaGrange, Georgia, has also played fullback and linebacker at Georgia Tech. Now he's a defensive tackle as he's beefed up to 275 pounds.
Nice job in the middle there by Johnson. Such good rushers from the outside with Greg Gathers and Nick Rogers in the middle. If you get any kind of push, all you have to do is get your eyes on that quarterback because they're going to flush him to the middle of the pocket. That time Gary Johnson got great push on the left guard, comes off and makes a big sack.
The second sack for Georgia Tech. That's the end of the first quarter. The score, Clemson 7 and Georgia Tech 6. ABC Sports presentation of college football will return after this message and a word from our ABC stations. First play of the second quarter, 3rd down and 18 for Clemson, and Dantzler threw the ball into double coverage, looking for Derek Hamilton, the redshirt freshman, and the Tigers will punt early in the second quarter with a 1-point lead. Sean McDonough with Ed Cunningham had the last 5 games in this rivalry, all decided by exactly 3 points. Tech has won the last 4. This one shaping up like another one that might go down to the wire.
Well, and early on, it's very obvious Clemson, who had a lot of trouble tackling early in the season, has shored that up a little bit. They've done a really nice job with all these young guys on defense.
First punt of the day for Clemson for Wynn Kopp, the former Georgia Bulldog. And here's Kelly Rhino with a nifty return through traffic to the Clemson 42. "17-yard return. We'll be back in Atlanta in a moment. Very even game. Clemson with a 1-point lead, and they have a 1-yard edge in total yardage. 78 yards to this point for the Tigers and 77 for Georgia Tech. Sellout crowd, 42,000 at Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta on a gorgeous day. In the early fall in Georgia. Temperature in the low 70s. A handoff to Sidney Ford. Another good run by Ford. He was tackled by the cornerback Kevin Johnson close to the first down at the 32-yard line. They've shown a lot of that today, Ed. the most part, Burns has been the primary ball carrier this year, but today it's been Ford lined up behind Burns in the I.
And Ford is a guy who has that little extra burst. Joe Burns runs so hard, but he does lack that extra gear that coaches like to see. And Sidney Ford is a little ball of muscle at 5'9", nearly 210 pounds.
4 carries, 42 yards for Ford, and that one was a 10-yard gain and a first down for the Yellow Jackets, who come in ranked 11th in one poll and 9th in the other. 3-0 overall, wins over Syracuse in the Kickoff Classic, and then easy victories against the Citadel and Navy for Coach George O'Leary, now in his 7th full season as head coach. With 4 straight bold appearances. First time that's happened to Tech since the days of Bobby Dodd in the mid-50s. Godsey flushed from the pocket and sacked. Back near the 40-yard line, Rodney Thomas, the junior from Cadwell, Georgia, one of many native Georgians on this Clemson team, with a big sack for defensive coordinator Reggie Herring.
And that is not a sack that George Godsey should have taken. There was nobody open, Sean. This was great coverage. Again, Reggie Herring has done a fantastic job mixing up coverages, but right here he has a chance to at least just throw it into the ground. That was a big minus yardage play when they're down in field goal range.
Second sack for Clemson. Second down and 16 now. Back to the ground with Burns, and he was upended as he approached the line of scrimmage. Turned it into a short gain to the 35. Bryant McNeil and Khalid Vaughn, the ends, converging in the middle to upend Burns.
And when you look at some of the names that were missing off of that Clemson defense from last year, Reggie Herring with all these young guys says, we're raising them. They all have ability, but especially against a team like Georgia Tech, that guy very nervous before this game. He's getting a nice effort so far.
Tech just 1 out of 5 on third down. Godsey hit as he throws. It's a duck. It is picked off by Charles Hafley. Bryant McNeil put the heat on Godsey and forced the wobbly throw. And it's an interception for Hafley. Just the second interception of the season for Clemson, and the first thrown by Godsey this season. He came in for the ballgame leading all quarterbacks in the nation in passing efficiency.
And this is what Georgia Tech expected. They knew they were going to see something different. Deep help for Hafley. He knew that he had help coming on the backside from Eric Meekins, the free safety, because another zone blitz by Reggie Herring and George Godsey. That was what Georgia Tech expected to see. Unfortunately for Godsey, he gets hit right as he throws it.
Here's a draw for Dantzler into the open field. And out near the 27-yard line with a first down, Ricardo Wimbush made the stop, but it's a gain of 18. And good blocking by Travis Zachary. He gets a lot of attention for his running and pass receiving, but Brad Scott, the offensive coordinator, said he's a very underappreciated blocker, and we could see it on that play.
Well, when you've got the best running back in the ACC to your left, being Woodrow Dantzler, you better learn how to block as the only back in the backfield.
18-yard gain and a first down. Dantzler in trouble, did well to hang on to that ball. Nick Rogers, the all-ACC defensive end, applying the pressure to Dantzler. Well, Tommy Bowden talked about we need takeaways. And they get one on the interception by Hafley, just the second interception of the season for Clemson, both by Hafley. Bowden now in his 3rd season after the tremendous 2-year run at Tulane. 17 and 10 in 2 years plus in Death Valley. Zachary swung down for a loss. Gary Johnson in on the stop again for the Yellow Jackets with help from Alfred Malone.
Gary Johnson, a guy when they started the season wasn't really that much in the mix, and right away having himself a big game. I guess he's trying to raise his level up to what they get from the ends with Gathers and Rogers. Johnson has done a really nice job penetrating the middle from that nose guard position.
Opening minutes of the second quarter, a 1-point lead for Clemson, nearly a 2-touchdown underdog today, due largely to a tremendous number of injuries. Dantzler got away from the first man and is finally swarmed down back at the 23-yard line by Greg Gathers. He got away from the blitzing linebacker Darrell Smith, but Gathers able to make the tackle, and the Tigers will have to punt.
And this is the second time that Daryl Smith has failed to break down. We saw it earlier against Travis Zachary, but Ted Roof, the one thing he does have, his entire defense, every guy out there, even the 280-pounders can run. Daryl Smith makes a mistake. Greg Gathers is there to clean it up.
Kelly Rhino, the cast on the left hand. He has a bad left thumb, might make it tough to catch the punt, and he is reckless when it comes to catching those punts. He won't call for fair catches, but he does catch it. He's very dependable in doing so, and he runs very well, obviously, as we've seen another 12-yard return for the son of one of the great players in Rambling Wreck history, Randy Rhino, a 3-time All-American defensive back and punt returner back in the early 70s.
On the return, 10 yards, spot of the foul, first down.
All these little mistakes, Sean. George O'Leary was talking about the speed of the game. Well, right now, his team hasn't figured out the speed yet.
Perhaps the 3-week layoff between games hurting Georgia Tech. ABC Sports presentation of college football is brought to you by Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete. By Circuit City, we know how you feel. That's why we're here. Circuit City, we're with you. And by Chevy Trucks, the most dependable, longest lasting trucks on the road. In Midtown Atlanta, Sean McDonough, Ed Cunningham, Leslie Goodell, 1st and 10, Georgia Tech. Joe Burns pulled down as he crossed midfield by Kevin Johnson. Again, great starting field position for Georgia Tech. Their last 4 possessions have started the Clemson 36, their own 46, the Clemson 42, and now their own 47, but so far just 2 field goals for the Ramblin' Wreck.
Between the 20s, it's been a fast track, and as soon as they get inside about the 15, it's like they're in quicksand.
2nd and 6. Dodsey throws to the tight end, Russell Matvey. First down inside the 30 to the 29. The senior from Coram, New York. Matvey, the big target with his first catch of the day and 6th of the year. Leroy Hill and Charles Hafley made the tackle after a gain of 19.
And this is where a tight end can really help you out. Up here on the top, Matvey's just going to run right down the middle. It's a 2-deep zone by Clemson. And that's where the soft spot is. The linebackers having a hard time running with the big athlete Matvey.
Sidney Ford, and he's tripped up with the 25. And on that last play, Ed, the pass to Matvey, good recognition by the Georgia Tech coaching staff. Bill O'Brien, the new offensive coordinator, as Clemson has gone to 2 true freshman backup linebackers right now, Eric Sampson and Leroy Hill. They likely spotted that and went to the tight end to try to capitalize on that.
And that's where a guy like George O'Leary is such a help to his staff with his NFL experience. In the NFL, that's what you have to watch as personnel matchups.
Back to the I formation now. There's Burns lumbering his way inside the 20 with another first down. First down to the 17-yard line. Of course, that's a big change here at Georgia Tech. Bill O'Brien taking over for Ralph Friedgen, who left to become the head coach at Maryland. And Bill O'Brien says what he learned from Ralph Friedgen most is to mix it up, and has been a nice mix of play calling today.
Well, it allows you to do different things. You know, that's just a really simple ISO play to the front side, but it comes out of so many different formations. It doesn't allow the defense to get a read and say, okay, they're in the offset eye. Here comes the ISO, because the next play, they'll do a play-action pass off of it.
Short drop and a throw incomplete. Good coverage by Kevin Johnson on Jonathan Smith. And it'll be 2nd down and 10.
Johnson, another one of those guys that Clemson really has to rely on. Alex Ardley, who was an all-ACC corner last year, their best cover guy, led the ACC in interceptions, got in a big argument with Tommy Bowden during the bowl game. Was asked to leave the team, now playing in the NFL, and Johnson early on, very tight coverage for Clemson.
Clemson showing blitz, and they try to run through it with no success. Burns stopped for a short gain by Rodney Thomas and John Leake. And we talked with Bill O'Brien yesterday, said the great strength of Godsey is that more often than not, he can get us out of a bad play. It didn't look like he did at that time.
You know, Sean, that looked really strange to me. I don't know that he wanted to hand that off to Joe Burns. I think he wanted to fake it because the pitch man was wide open on the option. That might have walked in for a touchdown, but Burns grabbed the ball from Gotze. At least it looked like to me that's what he did.
Now they go out of the shotgun on 3rd down and 9. Gotze lofts it toward the end zone. Touchdown, Will Glover. Will Glover beat Charles Haefley in coverage, and the Tigers now trail.
Will Glover running a corner route. That's all one-on-one. You just mentioned the strength of George Gotze, his recognition. He saw the blitz. He saw he had one-on-one coverage, a mismatch like we talked about. A safety trying to cover a very quick Glover, and a perfect corner throw by George Gotze.
And the extra point good by Luc Monge. That's 108 in a row for Monge. Becomes the 10th different Yellow Jacket to score a touchdown this year. His 16-yard reception capping a 7-play, 53-yard drive. Glover's from Tampa, Florida. Very familiar with his quarterback, George Gotze. They went to the same high school, Jesuit High School in Tampa. Were teammates. Will was particularly close with Gary Gotze. George's younger brother is now a tight end at Notre Dame.
How many times do you think those two guys have run a corner route? I mean, when you have that much experience with people, Gotze probably doesn't even have to look over there and see that he's open. He knows he can just throw it right to the corner of the end zone. Glover had beat the safety to the inside, then beat him back to the outside. It's just confidence. The quarterback, when he feels that, he doesn't even really have to see it come open.
Monge with the kickoff down to the 2-yard line. Brian Mans. He's upended at the 20, and a flag thrown in at the 24-yard line. Albert Pourri made the tackle for Georgia Tech. He's a transfer from Notre Dame. Courtney Mozzie leading the ACC officiating crew.
Holding on the return team, 10 yards, first down.
28th year as a college football official, Courtney Mozzie. That's not the Affleck trivia question, however. Which was the last team other than Florida State to win an outright ACC championship?
Georgia Tech.
That's your guess?
That's my guess.
All right. Florida State's won or shared every year since coming into the league in 1992. Derek Hamilton catches the quick pass from Dantzler. Corey Collins made the tackle. And of course, the whole conference well aware of the fact that Florida State already has a conference loss. The upset last week at Chapel Hill against the North Carolina Tar Heels. And this is the first conference game of the season for Georgia Tech. But some people think this could be their year, that perhaps they're even the favorite with this experienced bunch, while Florida State might be rebuilding by its standards. Zachary carried and picked up the first down out to the 22.
And the one thing George O'Leary made no bones about, I mean, obviously everybody was in agreement that the game should have been postponed, but he would have been much happier to play Florida State on September 15th. And the key was Chris Ricks, the quarterback at Florida State. He's a very talented quarterback. Everybody knows that. And by the end of the season, when Georgia Tech gets Florida State, he's going to be a much better ball player.
We're going to play the Seminoles on the 15th. Instead, it'll be December 1st. Dantzler forced to throw it away. Pressure from Greg Gathers. Talking about Florida State. And we talked with Tommy Bowden. He said these Georgia Tech defensive ends, Greg Gathers and Nick Rogers, look an awful lot like those defensive ends that Florida State seems to have every year. Great defensive ends.
And here is where Woody Dantzler normally would have been able to get out of that pressure, Sean, because of the speed of these two guys, Rogers and Gathers. When he tries to run the hump and get over the top of them, he just can't do it because they run so well.
Second and 10, movement along the line of scrimmage. 6:26 left. First half.
Dead ball, false start on the offense, 5 yards, second down.
And if there's one place on this field that Tommy Bowden has a lot of veteran players, it's along that offensive front. So if there's a group when things start to go in the other direction for them that needs to get settled down are the big guys up front, led in the middle, of course, by Kyle Young right there, who's an academic All-American. These guys need to get everybody settled down.
Already 5 penalties by the Tigers for 35 yards. 2nd and 15. Dantzler the fake to one side. Was trying to set up a screen, but it was well defended on the other side. And now Dantzler slides down at the 12-yard line. Kieran Fox was about to put the hit on him, so Dantzler wisely hit the deck. Very well defended by the Georgia Tech defense.
And Ted Roof, they had a lot of growing up to do around here. Back in 1999, he made a choice as the defensive coordinator to play a lot of these young guys. Ricardo Wimbush, Greg Gathers, they all played as true freshmen, and they took their lumps, Sean. But now, against a team like this, is when all of that experience pays off.
And that was courageous on the part of Roof back then, because he was a new defensive coordinator and took some heat here in Atlanta when the defense struggled. Dantzler has a seam, but doesn't have it for long. He got to the 16, way short of the first down. He needed the 33-yard line. Anthony Lawson, Ather Brown, Hobie Holiday, all into the tackle. And the crowd salutes the Georgia Tech defense.
And this is where George O'Leary told us yesterday that the kicking game's so key. They're going to take some shots at blocking a kick, Sean. 4th and 15, backed up Clemson. All the Georgia Tech Ramblin' Wreck up on the line with their hands and their butts in the air.
Wincott, the transfer from the University of Georgia, where he punted for 2 years for the Bulldogs. Short nose-up spiral, and even the lack of a fair catch that time from Rhino with the Tiger right in front of him. He is not going to fair catch it. 32-yard punt, and there's a flag down back near the line of scrimmage.
On the offense.
Holding, and the question is, will George O'Leary take that? He already has good field position at the 46 if the play stands.
Well, you go back to the 8-yard line, so your punter can still get 15 yards back from the snapper. But if I'm O'Leary, I think the reason that Clemson held was because they got somebody free when they were rushing up the middle. Why not back them up? See if you can't come up with a bigger play.
Holding on the kicking team. Half the distance to the goal. Repeat 4th down.
Well, he will make him punt into the wind again, even though it was just a 32-yard punt. George O'Leary said, we were fortunate to win last year, but Clemson, given that we had a punt blocked, and that set up just a 1-yard touchdown run for Clemson, and Georgia Tech allowed an 88-yard punt return by Brian Mance for another score. He said, usually when you lose against an evenly matched team in the special teams area, you're going to lose the game.
Yeah, 14 points on the road to win that game. That said something about this group.
So Kopp near the back line of the end zone has about 3 yards to work with. Rhino standing at the 41. And it's another high and short punt. And this time it's dropped by Rhino, who appeared to get it back at the 40. So they did pick up 6 yards in field position, did Georgia Tech, by having the Tigers punt again. 13-7 Georgia Tech with 4:43 left in the half. (3-0) Georgia Tech against 2-1 Clemson. Head-to-head in Atlanta this afternoon. The Yellow Jackets with a 6-point lead in the ball, again with great field position at the Clemson 40-yard line. That looked like a face mask as Sidney Ford carried into the line of scrimmage. And there were about 42,000 officials hollering for a flag as it looked like he was yanked down by the headgear.
Well, and that looked like it could be a 15-yarder, Sean, because of the way the head turns. That's what the official looks for, is how far does that running back. Yep, there's 15-yarder.
On the defense, 15 yards into the run, first down. 58.
Well, they let us know who did that. Usually that's held off for the NFL.
I don't think he meant to say that with his mic on.
I don't think
he was
so
letting
either.
The sideline know it was J.J. Howard, but the official still had the microphone on. So the ball goes to the 25-yard line. Tommy Bowden says this is really a must-win game if we're going to win the conference title. He said it's very unlikely somebody's going to win this conference with 2 losses. They already have one after the upset against Virginia at home last week. Ford carries again. Carson made the tackle at the 24-yard line. Let's answer the Aflac trivia question. We asked you the last team other than Florida State to win an outright ACC championship in football. You guessed Georgia Tech.
What's your guess?
I'll go with you.
Okay. Might be Virginia.
Clemson. Oh, usually it's one of the two teams involved in our games. We had a 1 out of 2 chance. I was thinking back to Georgia Tech when they were national champs in 1990, but Clemson snuck in there in 91 just before Florida State came in 1992. Joe Burns, the ball carrier, a gain to the 20-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and about 5 for another Yellow Jacket first down with 3.5 minutes left in the first half.
And this is the 3rd time, Sean, in the ball game, still in the first half, that Georgia Tech has started on the plus side of the field in Clemson territory. They got to start converting some of these to 7 instead of 3.
Here comes the blitz. Wide open man. Joe Burns out of the backfield. He spins for the first down. Charles Hafley made the tackle, likely saved the touchdown. Let's check in with John Saunders at Times Square Stadium.
Sean, in the Coors Light update, Illinois facing Michigan. John Navarre drops back, then steps up in the pocket, throws it towards the end zone. Ronald Bellamy leaping grab for the touchdown, and Michigan builds a 21-10 lead as they approach halftime. Sean.
Illinois went to Ann Arbor undefeated, but trailing there this afternoon. Georgia Tech looking to pad its 13-7 lead here. 1st and 10 from the 13-yard line. Godsey tried to hit his receiver Smith on a slant. Jonathan went down with Brian Mance in coverage.
If Clemson, you know, the way they've played on defense, Sean, 13 points with what has happened with turnovers and some of the special teams. Reggie Herring, if he can come out of here with a field goal attempt, they've got to feel very good about themselves with this first half.
Reggie Herring has been widely criticized by Clemson fans for the struggles of the defense. His defense struggling to prevent the touchdown. They did stop Joe Burns at the 1-yard line. Some good ball faking along the line of scrimmage by Godsey. Charles Hafley with another tackle. It's a 12-yard gain, and Reggie Herring, longtime defensive coordinator, enduring what happens when you have a youthful defensive group. They're going to be mistake prone this year. They've had a tough time tackling it again there. 1st and goal from the 1. Burns up and over. Touchdown, Georgia Tech.
George O'Leary going for 2 because of the 2 field goals. He wants to get it to a 3-touchdown first half, with the 2 points going to make it 21.
The 5th rushing touchdown of the season for Joe Burns. And he'll try to make it 21-7. 4 wide receivers. 2 to each side of Godsey. Here comes a blitz. The pass blocked. Broken up by Brian Mance. Flag thrown on the play. Jonathan Smith, the intended receiver, looked like he got his hands on it but couldn't catch it. The flag way in the other side of the field, the far side from our viewpoint.
Receiver on the offensive team. Penalty is declined. Extra point is no good.
So it's still 19-7. Joe Burns, the junior from Thomasville, Georgia, expands the Tech lead. (19-7), Georgia Tech. They decided to go for 2. Ed, a lot of coaches this early in the game would say just take the point. A lot of times that point you didn't take, and it's just about automatic with Manger, comes back to haunt you later.
Our old friend Terry Donahue always says this early there's going to be a lot of things happening in the ball game. I want the 1 with not much of a chance of making 2 all the time.
Derek Hamilton, the redshirt freshman, took the Manger kickoff at the goal line. Again, excellent coverage by the Yellow Jackets. Hamilton made it across the 20 to the 21. Now it's time for our Pacific Light game summary. The first touchdown of the game on a 3-yard run by Travis Zachary. Clemson had a 7-6 lead. A couple of unanswered touchdowns. First, a 16-yard pass to Will Glover, then the 1-yard run by Joe Burns. And it's 19-7 Georgia Tech. Each team with 3 timeouts left. Here's Zachary. Across the formation and across the 25-yard line. Down near the 27. The senior from Marietta, Georgia, here in suburban Atlanta. He has a bruised foot and a bruised knee. Didn't practice on Tuesday. He said, there's no way I'm going to miss this game against my hometown team.
Well, you got to figure there's a lot of people with bloodlines in the Zachary family sitting up in the stands across the way in the corner. He wasn't going to let a bruised foot slow him down.
Dantzler's pass through the hands of Derek Hamilton. Might have looked upfield to see what was ahead of him before he caught the ball. He's a redshirt freshman from Dillon, South Carolina, who had 9 catches last week against Virginia. The coaches say he is coming on at an incredible rate.
He has an amazing step. He has that little lurch step where he can put the brakes on and make people miss. A lot of those 90 yards, Sean, because he just caught quick slants against Virginia, made the first guy miss, and turned him into 15 or 20-yard gains on really a 3-yard pass.
So Rick Stockstill signaling in the plays as he does. Dantzler over the middle of Zachary, a first down. That'll stop the clock to move the chains at the 34-yard line. Anthony Lawston made the tackle with help from Ricardo Wimbush. So many key wide receivers out of the lineup for Dantzler. They lost Kevin Youngblood, who was going to be their best deep threat in the preseason with a broken leg. Jackie Robinson broke his jaw against Virginia last week. He's out of action. Several others playing with injuries today. Dantzler spins out to the 39. Roscoe Crosby, a top prospect, sprained his knee against Wofford. He has not played yet. Today is dressed, but they don't think he'll play. They're very thin at wide receiver.
Thankfully, they have a guy like Woody Dantzler to do what he just did. You know, Ted Roof, the defensive coordinator, his biggest compliment for Dantzler said the type of competitor he is. That time the pocket sealed. They had 2 guys waiting to tackle him. He still picks up 6 yards.
2 other key receivers in their rotation. J.J. McKelvey, who started today, he's playing with a sprained knee. Matt Bailey, another part of their regular package, a wide receiver playing with a pulled hamstring. Someone who is not playing with an injury is Leslie Goodell. Leslie.
Somebody who is playing with an injury or actually has left the field is linebacker Darrell Smith. So Georgia Tech has suffered an injury on their side of the ball. He walked off holding his wrist, but they won't specify his injury yet or whether or not he'll come back.
But probably to his wrist.
It looked as though it was to his wrist.
Coming up on the Valvoline halftime show, John Saunders and Terry Bowden will bring you all the scores and highlights from college football today. Undoubtedly, Terry watching this game with interest. His brother Tommy leads the Tigers.
Darrell Smith, a guy who, a true sophomore, came in and led this team in tackles last year as a freshman. And your middle linebacker, like your free safety, is the guy lining everybody up. And against Clemson, because they do so many things, that's a big miss if he can't come back to the game.
Into the 5-yard gain for Dantzler. 2 timeouts left for Clemson. 1:13 left. Dantzler sacked. Flag down. Dantzler down back at the 32. Fred Wright, who backs up Nick Rogers, beat Will Merritt, the guard, who was trying to stop Wright. 6 sacks already for Georgia Tech against a veteran Clemson line considered to be one of the strengths of the Tiger team.
Really nice job, Georgia Tech up front. They run a tackle end stunt where the tackle went up the field, the end peels back inside, and Clemson's veteran offensive line was not able to pick up the stunt.
Third down and 13. Dantzler across the 40, first down, out of bounds to stop the clock into Georgia Tech territory at the 48-yard line. And that's the dimension Dantzler brings that so few quarterbacks do around the country. He has been called by some coaches in this conference the best running back in the conference, even though he's a quarterback. A 20-yard gain.
And a really nice job. You mentioned earlier, Sean, how Travis Zachary kind of turns into a fullback. Excellent job of getting to the second level and blocking linebacker.
Big play. 42 seconds left. The pass low for J.J. McKelvey. 39 seconds left.
Dantzler's pass intended for number 84.
Well, and the good news for Clemson, their offense is the 2-minute offense. I mean, they run a hurry-up drill for 4 quarters. So this is nothing new for Clemson to hustle, get to the line, make all your calls at the line of scrimmage and snap the ball.
Dantzler 7 for 11 passing for 50 yards. 12 carries for 52 yards rushing for Woody. He throws over the head of McKelvey. De'Aaron Fox had the coverage. McKelvey not with blazing speed, but a big target at 6'4", 210. Brad Scott says he's particularly good along the boundary, and that's where they tried to get him right there.
And the one thing, another guy that was added to this staff when Rich Rodriguez left was Mike O'Kane, who's a really good, was a quarterback at Clemson. The one thing they've worked on with Dantzler is being more of a pocket passer, not having to roll it. But Sean, he just doesn't have a whole lot of confidence without his guys like Youngblood and Jackie Robinson out there running routes, standing in that pocket.
Rod Gardner, of course, with 58 catches last year, went on to the NFL as a first-round pick of the Redskins. Dantzler throws, first down to the 38-yard line. They just did pick up the first down on the reception by Matt Bailey, another Atlanta area native from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Looks to clearly be a first down. The referee wanted to make sure, and he's going to call on the chains.
Clemson is so fast to the line of scrimmage, the officials couldn't even check to see if it was a first down or not. I think you're right, Sean, pretty easily a first down, but they are so good at getting up around the ball that the officials had to straddle it and tell Kyle Young, the center, to back off so we can take a look.
Yeah, I don't even know why they bothered. That was clearly a first down.
You know, Georgia Tech might have called for the measurement just to get themselves.
They were just lined
breath.
up playing defense.
Yeah.
It was the referee, Courtney Mozzie, who looked to the sideline. And he just wanted to be sure.
Might have needed to catch his wind.
20 seconds. Blitz picked up. Dantzler throws. No man open. Threw it over the head of Derek Hamilton, who was double covered along the near sideline. 13 seconds left. They have 2 timeouts, so they can go to the middle of the field here. Chris Young and Jeremy Myers have the double coverage on Hamilton.
And that's one of the things that they wanted to really add to their offense this year. Last year they kind of cut the field in half and only made Dantzler read one side of the field. They have been working middle of the field drags, get themselves in better field goal position with these timeouts.
Dantzler under pressure. Time running out. 7 seconds left. Dantzler, he's at the 10. He had all the time he needed. Touchdown. Right as the half ends, a spectacular 38-yard run.
Number 19, Aaron Hunt, after the extra point.
Everybody spread out. Georgia Tech playing a soft 2-deep zone, not wanting to get beat deep, but Clemson has a wild card. Watch the block by 21 Hamilton right there at the end. He stiffs arms the defensive back number 4, Corey Collins, to finish off the play for Dantzler.
Aaron Hunt adds the extra point. Officially a 38-yard run, but it was actually 47 yards once he started toward the end zone. The rush forced him back to the 47 before he took off. Great momentum builder at the end of the half for Tommy Bowden. Not so happy about it, George O'Leary with Leslie Goodell.
Well, Coach, I know that's the last thing you wanted to see going into the locker room, but you still have the lead. You wanted to know how they'd handle the speed of the game before the game. What do you think?
Well, I think we're missing way too many tackles and too many arm tackles. We got to move our feet, and obviously most of the yards that we've given up, I think missed tackles or second missed tackles, and we just got to get better at that and regroup at halftime and come out ready to play again.
Is this the kind of game you always know? It's been so tight in years past that it's going to come down to the wire?
Well, it always does. It's a great rival game, and it's a great college game.
Thanks, Coach.
At halftime, George O'Leary and the Yellow Jackets lead by 5, but they lead with a memory of that run by Dantzler. Coming up, the Valvoline halftime show. John and Terry standing by to bring you all the scores and highlights from college football today. Welcome back to Atlanta at halftime. Georgia Tech leads Clemson 19-14. ABC Sports presentation of college football will return after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back in Atlanta at halftime, Georgia Tech with a 19-14 lead over Clemson. Sean McDonough, Ed Cunningham, Leslie Goodell, delighted to have you with us. And Ed, you have to appreciate Woodrow Dantzler. Really no deep threat for him to throw the ball to, trouble and protection, and yet he has the Tigers right here in the game.
And it's that last play that really sets him apart as a player. I mean, we're sitting up here thinking he better slide, because the half's about the end. But he sees the field so well as a running back. We've said this before, Sean. That's the best running back in the ACC is the quarterback for Clemson.
And the Tigers will have the ball first to begin the second half as Luke Monge will kick off.
Number 2,
Brian Mance, Joe Don Reams back near the 5-yard line waiting for the kickoff. And a good kick with the slight breeze that is back by Monge. Mance takes a knee, and we take it down to Leslie Goodell.
Well, I talked to Coach Bowden right after the half, and he basically reiterated exactly what you just said, Sean. They're having trouble throwing long. They really don't have the protection to get the ball down there and go four deep. And penalties have been a problem as well. So he said they're going to be depending on defense in order to get the job done in the second half.
All right, Leslie, thank you. Another injury to a wide receiver for Clemson. Tony Elliott injured his wrist in the first half. He was deep down the depth chart, but they're already deep down the depth chart at wide receiver. Here's Zachary running right, and a quality gain of 7 on the first down. Corey Collins chopped him down.
And against Georgia Tech, this defense for Clemson, it's so very difficult. As we look at the Morgan Stanley well-connected storyline, 150 total yards for Dantzler, and that's because that's what they're getting. And Godsey not being his usual efficient self so far.
Zachary again short of the first down by a foot or two. And unless you were Evelyn Wood, you didn't have time to totally digest the Morgan Stanley well-connected storyline. Dantzler had 90 rushing yards in the first half, and of course he had 18 taken off his total because of sacks, so he would have been over 100 had it not been for the sacks rushing in the first half. On third and less than a yard, Zachary threw a big hole. First down and more out to the 45-yard line. Jeremy Myers, the safety, the last line of defense for Georgia Tech. A gain of 17 and a first down for Clemson.
And you know, Clemson's such a spread it out team, but they do have the ability to pack people in. 2 tight end set. They pull the right guard, Merritt, who gets a great kick out block on the linebacker. What a nice job by Merritt. Opens that huge hole. This is a very active, athletic offensive line.
Good block by the fullback, Chad Jasmine, as well. Dantzler might be changing the play. He throws, caught, plenty of running room. Matt Bailey to the 10, touchdown! Albert Pori went for the interception and came up empty, and Bailey came up with 6 points on a 55-yard touchdown reception.
Albert Pori needs to know that Myers, the safety, is not deep to his side. He has no help, Sean. Who do I play, the ball or the man? And Albert Pori, a sophomore, makes a poor decision with no safety help. He should have played the man.
And given the way Pori played it, that was a perfect throw by Dantzler to the outside. And Bailey, who ran the rest of the way despite the fact that he's had an injured leg the last couple of weeks. Clemson leads again in this back-and-forth battle, 21-19 after the extra point by Aaron Hunt. First career touchdown catch for Matt Bailey. 55 yards, the longest pass play of the season for Clemson. Bailey, a senior, another Atlanta area native from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Graduate student, received his degree in speech and communications in May, had 9 receptions all of last year. He was a questionable player today with the pulled hamstring last week against Virginia. No problem on that play. Wobbly kick off the foot of Lazara, and it goes out of bounds. So they needed just 4 plays to go the 80 yards.
Illegal procedure
37 seconds.
On the kicking team, we'll put the ball in play on the 35-yard line. First down.
2 touchdowns now in the last 5 plays from scrimmage for Clemson. ABC Sports presentation of college football brought to you by Pacific Life. Annuities, insurance, investments. Discover the power of Pacific Life. By General Motors. Together, let's keep America rolling. And by Capital One, what's in your wallet? Joe Burns on the first play from scrimmage of the second half for Georgia Tech, out to the 41-yard line, a gain of 6. Charles Hafley pulled him down.
And how come this is no surprise? Our first lead change of the second half, and that great game that we got to do last year, Sean, out at Death Valley, there were 4 lead changes in the second half. So hopefully this is the first of many.
Georgia Tech won it last year up in Death Valley on a last-second touchdown pass. Godsey to Kerry Watkins. Godsey handed it off to Sidney Ford, and John Leak made the tackle. Near the first down, just a little bit shy it seems. They needed to get to the 45, and the nose of the football just short of that yard line. It'll be 3rd down and inches.
Even though George O'Leary allows his coordinators to really coach, you've got to figure that he's called to Bill O'Brien and said, I want to see how tough my team is. Let's pound it a little bit right now.
Formation, Mitchell and Burns behind Godsey. Burns lunges. Will they give him the spot? It's going to be very close. He needs to get right to that 45-yard line. Eric Meekins came up from the secondary and made the hit. And it looks like it is a first down. First down for Georgia Tech.
Sean, watch the block by Ross Mitchell. Again, it's just that ISO play they run. Burns just needs to run to the outside of that. There is space there for him to get the first down. You've got to know the situation. This is a veteran ball player. You don't always have to try to bounce it for the big yardage.
Burns the lone back now as they go to a 2 tight end package. Godsey with a blitz coming, gets it off, and it is caught for a first down to the Clemson 43-yard line. Kelly Campbell, who's had a very quiet day by his standards, with a gain of 12. Just the 2nd catch of the day for Campbell, who had 14 catches last year at Clemson for 209 yards. And 2 years ago against the Tigers here in Atlanta, he had 8 catches for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns.
What a nice job by Godsey getting that ball out there. He had pressure right in his face and was able to get enough on him in that out route.
Sidney Ford picked his way to the 41-yard line. John Leak made the tackle. It seems that Leak's come out of nowhere to be their leading tackler. Last year he played sparingly, only on special teams. Now he's their starting middle linebacker as a sophomore with great athletic ability.
And Altroy Bodrick was the starter at that position, and they lost him to a torn ACL in camp. So Leak, talk about coming out of nowhere. He was 2nd string coming into this season.
4.4 speed of the 40 for Leak, 41-inch vertical leap. Burns carries just short of another first down to the 35-yard line. John Leak again on the tackle. He's from Plano, Texas. Leak, the first Clemson signee from the state of Texas since 1991. His father played wide receiver at Wyoming.
Interesting story. A rival high school, Allen High School, the head coach Todd Graham got him in touch with Rich Rodriguez, now at West Virginia. Graham now the linebacker coach for Rodriguez at West Virginia.
Godsey has a man wide open on 3rd and short. They catch him by surprise. Kelly Campbell, touchdown Georgia Tech, and the Jackets have the lead back. Totally blown coverage by Tiger defense. There wasn't anybody within 20 yards of Kelly Campbell.
Kelly Campbell in motion. They usually come in motion, and the free safety and the cornerback bite the fake, Sean. That is inexperience. We've talked to Reggie Herring about these young guys are growing up. Well, that safety and that corner they were on the same page. Unfortunately for them, it was the wrong page they were on.
2 catches on the drive. 3 for the game for Campbell. That's his 2nd touchdown of the season. Again, they'll try for 2. They failed earlier in their bid for a 2-point conversion and a flag thrown. They might not have gotten the playoff. Delay of game. Now let's see if George O'Leary kicks it with the ball back on the 8-yard line.
Dead ball. Delay of the game on the kicking team. 5-yard penalty.
And he will send Manger on.
Well, let's set a little over-under for lead changes, Sean. We had 4 last year in the second half. We have 2 with 10:16 left in the third quarter. I'll set it at 5. We're going to have 5 lead changes before this is over.
Manger's made 108 extra points in a row. He's never missed one. That's the ACC record for consecutive PATs. He broke the mark of 93 set by Jess Atkinson in Maryland back in the early 80s. So Manger is still perfect. And the Yellow Jackets have the lead again by 5. Well, each team has scored a touchdown here in the second half in less than 5 minutes. And George Godsey and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets have a 26-21 lead, and they'll kick off with 10:16 left in the third quarter.
A game that started to look early like it was going to be the defenses that played the best today. Now the offenses, we have 2 offensive, Sean, that are so difficult to get ready for because they do so many things. That time, Georgia Tech crammed everybody in, left Campbell out, and a misread by Clemson's defensive backfield.
Another good kick by Manger, not returnable over the head of Mance and out of the back of the end zone. Georgia Tech has definitely had the field position advantage today, thanks in part to the work of Manger. Here comes Woodrow Dantzler. His dad, a Army veteran, disabled after being exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam. He introduced Woody to the martial arts for discipline. He studied karate and taekwondo. Says among other things that helped him with his balance. He has great balance. He shows it again. Up the middle for about 17 out to the 37-yard line.
And the one thing when we were talking to Ted Roof, the defensive coordinator for Georgia Tech yesterday, that scared him to death about Woody Dantzler was not what he does in the open field, because we all know what he does in the open field. It's what he does after someone grabs an ankle or whatever. That was 10 yards after a Georgia Tech defender grabbed his ankle at the line of scrimmage to pick up the first down.
107 yards rushing on 14 carries now for Dantzler, including the memorable 38-yard touchdown run on the last play of the first half. Roll out left, and the ball incomplete, intended for Hamilton. Looked like he was going to make a nice catch in traffic, but Corey Collins pulled it out.
And Derek Hamilton comes away with that tangle with Corey Collins, and he's limping on that left ankle, Sean. Here's a guy that Tommy Bowden didn't really expect much out of, Derek Hamilton, as Rick Stockstill sends in the signals from the sideline. They didn't expect much out of Alexander. He's been a really nice surprise for them, and with the depth problems they already have, he needs to run that ankle off.
Roscoe Crosby, who has not seen any action today because of a sprained knee, is on the field now and split out to the left of Woody Dantzler. He's a top wide receiver prospect. Looked like the same play as the first play of this possession with the same result. A quality gain for Dantzler. 14 more into Georgia Tech territory at the 49-yard line, where Chris Young made the tackle.
Well, and it's become very obvious what the game plan for Tommy Bowden. That first half, Sean, they had nothing to go deep. Even that touchdown to Matt Bailey was a short route that was misplayed by the defensive back. So let's just get on the shoulders of one of the best players in the country and see if he can't win it for us.
Again, Dantzler keeps. And goes down at the 45-yard line. 4 more on the run. Matthew Etheridge, a backup linebacker, made the tackle. A junior from Macon, Georgia. He is the brother-in-law of Kevin Brown, a terrific pitcher for Los Angeles Dodgers. Matthew's sister, Candace, is married to Kevin Brown, who pitched here at Georgia Tech before heading into professional baseball. Zachary with room to the right. First down, Tigers. Down to the 36-yard line. Ricardo Wimbush made the stop.
And the reason that Etheridge is in the game, Sean, is because Darrell Smith, the leading tackler from last year, is out. And now Etheridge has to really step up. Going into the sun, Travis Zachary gets the ball now, and he's had a very productive day. And just a really nice job of Clemson's offensive line of maintaining their blocks.
Dantzler fake the inside handoff, wide receiver screen, and Hamilton down with a loss on the play. Played nicely by Corey Collins, the junior from Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. He's a former New Jersey State 100-meter champion when he was a junior in high school.
Well, he had a nice burst of speed that time. Hamilton. Ted Roop said that's just like an outside running play by Clemson when they run that little slip screen to the wide receiver. And Hamilton has that really nice first step, but a really nice burst to the ball.
Just getting a little bit frustrated that they can't corral Woody Dantzler. They do corral the ball carrier, and it popped out. Looked like Bernard Rambert, the backup to Zachary, fumbled. He did, but the Tigers got it back. Reggie Kuhn put the hit on Rambert, who's being chewed out by Tommy Bowden on his way off the field.
And Sean, you get pulled right out when you fumble that ball.
3rd and 12. Lots of noise now from the Yellow Jacket fans here in Atlanta. Midway through the 3rd quarter, another terrific game between Georgia Tech and Clemson. Dantzler nowhere near the first down, chased out of bounds at the 34-yard line. About 7 yards shy. And you wonder what Coach Bowden will do. Probably not a makeable field goal for his kicker. It's not the spot of the field where you would punt, perhaps.
I think Tommy Bowden, he's going to call this timeout and talk about it, Sean. I would not be surprised, though, if they come back from this timeout and go for it on 4th down.
Well, in a game like this, you hate to burn a timeout midway through the 3rd quarter. Aaron Hunt has never tried a field goal of more than 50 yards in his career, and this would be about a 51-yarder. After the timeout, Tommy Bowden is going for it on 4th down. 4th and 7 from just inside the 35-yard line. They're 1 for 1 today on 4th down. Dantzler keeps it. Runs untouched past the first down marker. Another good block by the running back Zachary. Dantzler all the way down to the 21. With the way that Clemson's played offense today, you would think Georgia Tech might have a pretty good idea at least to look out for this.
But it is the block that you mentioned by Zachary. A great cut block on the linebacker Wimbush that Dantzler runs right off of. Zachary really earning his meal today.
Might be a double pass. Zachary forced to eat it back at the 30. They had the pass back to the quarterback in the playbook, and it looks like that's what they wanted to do with Dantzler going out to the far side after throwing a lateral to Zachary, but they had Dantzler covered.
There's a throw across the field. It is a lateral. Zachary might just want to throw this ball away. Good job by the backside defensive end of Georgia Tech. Just throw that thing into the stands so you don't have a big, almost 10-yard loss on the play.
Into the bag of tricks without success, and it's a big loss on the play. A loss of 10, 2nd and 20 from just outside the 30. Dantzler a lot of time, and a man. Hamilton close to the first down at the 12-yard line. Appears to be about a yard short of the marker. A 19-yard gain. Ricardo Wimbush into the tackle with Corey Collins.
And you start to see some of the improvement of Woody Dantzler really getting into the flow of the game. That was a difficult throw. The safety was coming up on Hamilton, saw that that's where Dantzler wanted to go, and a really pinpoint pass.
3rd and a long one. They just converted a big 4th down and 7. Now it's Zachary converting on 3rd down. Jeremy Myers pulled him down at the 3-yard line. 1st and goal as Clemson drives for what it hopes will be the go-ahead touchdown.
George O'Leary said, you know what, I know my defense is good when we can stack 8 or 9 guys in the box to stop the run. I want to see how good they are when we get spread out and have to try to stop it with 6 or 7. Well, I don't think he likes the answer right now.
Zachary to the goal line. Touchdown! They will likely go for 2 to try to get a 3-point lead where a field goal could only tie them.
Sean, we've been talking the whole game about how Tommy Bowden has a bunch of guys dinged up at wide receiver. So what do? You go to the one group on the field with the most experience and the best players, your offensive line. They've done a fantastic job. Whoever's running the ball, Dantzler, Zachary, everybody helping out. Hamilton's had some great blocks down the field. This has been a nice display of running the football by Clemson.
But they have to burn another timeout. That's going to leave them with just one. Will Merritt, particularly good block on the touchdown run by Zachary, which put them over 200 yards rushing for the day as a team. The 202 on the 3-yard touchdown run. And, you know, you go back to managing the game. They burned a timeout on 4th and 7. Now, admittedly, it was a key play. But when you're the head coach and you're in that position of the field, that's one of your most important tasks. One of the few tasks, perhaps, that you have. Thinking about, do I go for it on 4th down? And if so, what am I going to do? To burn a timeout in that situation could be costly, and now they don't manage it well enough to get the play off again.
And Sean, he's got 2 ex-head coaches upstairs, right up down the hall from us, Mike O'Kane and Brad Scott, who should have been in his ear. Coach, we're going to go. We're going to go. Remember, we wanted to go for it here. I agree. Down to 1 timeout in a ball game like this, that could really come back to her.
1 timeout left for Clemson. There are the 2 former ACC head coaches in the sunglasses. Mike O'Kane, formerly the head man at North Carolina State, last year at North Carolina as the quarterback's coach, and now back at Clemson where he played as a quarterback. And Brad Scott on the right, the former South Carolina head coach prior to Lou Holtz, who joined the Clemson staff a couple of years ago and was elevated to offensive coordinator this year when Rich Rodriguez left, become the head coach at West Virginia.
And you see Mike O'Kane, what a great quarterback coach. He's done a fantastic job improving Woody Dantzler as a pocket and short ball thrower.
A try for 2 and a 3-point lead for Clemson. Dantzler buried back at the 10-yard line by Kieran Fox.
By number 54, Kieran Fox.
Big play by the sophomore from Atlanta. Kieran Fox threw Dantzler for the loss and stopped the try for 2. Well, it's a typical Clemson Georgia Tech battle. 9 of the last 11 between these 2 teams have been decided by 4 points or less. The last 5 games all decided by exactly 3 points. Georgia Tech has won the last 4 of those. Aaron Hunt taking over the kicking off duties from Tony Lazzara after Lazzara's last try went out of bounds. This one's heading out of bounds too. So again, field position for Georgia Tech.
Illegal procedure on the kicking team. Put the ball in play on the 35-yard line. First down.
Time now for the Pacific Life game summary. And if you just joined us, you missed one of the electrifying plays of the year. This was the last play of the first half. Woodrow Dantzler got them within 5 on a 38-yard touchdown run. Then early in the 3rd quarter, a 55-yard touchdown pass. Dantzler to Bailey. And then Kelly Campbell all alone on 3rd and short. A 35-yard touchdown for Georgia Tech. It gave them the lead, but Clemson's come back on the short run by Zachary. And on 1st down, Kelly Campbell on the end around, run down by Charles Hafley. Hafley's had a big day. He had 106 tackles last season. That's the Clemson record for a strong safety.
Nice job by Reggie Herring. We've talked the whole game about how he's changed things up. The one thing he's also done, Sean, is change up the personnel. Even though they're dinged up, they've rolled some young people through here. And you can still see the freshness of his defense when they're going to make tackles and in their pursuit.
He's coaching a very young and inexperienced defense. Burns the ball carrier out to the 40. It'll be 3rd down and 5. Of course, Keith Adams was an All-American linebacker, and Alex Ardley, their best cornerback, left school early. Then they had Marcus Lewis and Paul White, who had a chance to be regulars, got in trouble with the law. They're out of the program. You mentioned earlier, Bodrick and Houskin, would-be starters, are injured. So there are 6 guys right there who have been key players on the defense. Most of them starters, not here.
All-ACC defensive tackle from last year, Terry Jolly, another guy not here.
Carswell graduated. He was an All-American. The pass batted down by Nick Eason. A courageous effort today by Eason, playing on a badly sprained left ankle. Got into only 5 plays against Virginia. Didn't look good in the warm-up today, and you can see he's kind of hobbling off the field, but he was in there on the big 3rd down to knock down the pass.
And Sean, how about a guy last year, Eason, who was their defensive MVP? All those names you just mentioned, he was the guy that was singled out by the coaches because of his effort, gained 20 pounds to move from end to defensive tackle for this year.
Going the 2nd punt for Dan Dyke. And a booming punt. Bounces softly at the goal line. Touchback. Kerry Watkins ran down there and downed it, but the official on the play says touchback. There's the back judge, Lou Ryan, who made the call. So the ball comes out to the 20. And let's check in with John Saunders at Times Square Stadium.
Sean, the Coors Light update. UCLA facing Oregon State. Deshaun Foster busts one through the line, just bounces off of it, and then fights his way, tiptoes in for the touchdown, 17 yards. His 2nd touchdown of the day. UCLA up 24-0.
Very disappointing start to the season for the Oregon State Beavers. Some were touting them as national championship caliber in the preseason. Woody Dantzler carries out to the 23. Greg Gathers and Kieran Fox made the tackle.
And this is where Clemson on offense, wouldn't be surprised, Sean, they already run at a hectic pace, that they don't pick up the pace even a little bit more as we get towards the 4th quarter to start to try to wear out this Tech defense even more.
Dantzler's had a great day, just throws it away. Nobody open. Pressure from Matthew Etheridge. It'll be 3rd down. The New York Jets are undefeated in their last 4 appearances on Monday Night Football, including last season's stunning comeback victory over the Dolphins, when now Virginia coach Al Groh was the head man of the Jets. Now Jeff Garcia and the 49ers will try and stop the Jets' Monday Night Magic. Monday Night Football at 9 Eastern. Right here on ABC. Al Groh has the Cavaliers to a 3-1 start this year with today's victory over Duke.
And a really nice job by him and his staff last week on how to at least contain Dantzler. I mean, Dantzler had a pretty good game, but they picked their spots where to blitz.
And here comes the blitz. Dantzler got it off. Zachary, 1st down. Upended at the 30, but lunged ahead for the 1st down. Jeremy Myers tripped him up. His brother John graduated after completing his career at Tech last year, a fine wide receiver. And older brother Jeffrey played defensive back at Wake Forest. Jeremy told us yesterday John is working in the packaging business.
The real world, so to speak.
Roll out to the right. Blitz from the blind side, and the pass juggled. Was it caught? No. Dropped by a frustrated Matt Bailey.
We've already seen the sun a couple of times, Sean. It's only got a little bit of ways to go before it's completely off the field. But Bailey looking right back in the sun. We saw Kelly Rhino drop a punt earlier. Oh, you're not buying it? You're saying he just dropped it? Come on, I'm trying to help him out a little bit.
Catch the ball.
See, look at that sun.
He was looking back toward the end zone, and the ball's over the one side of the grandstand over here. The sun is ready. Dantzler down to the 35-yard line. That'll bring up 3rd down and almost 7. Ether Brown and Kieran Fox combined on the stop.
And you go back to that drop that would have been very close to a 1st down. Now instead of 3rd and short, they're in an area 3rd and long that plays into the defense's hands. They can do a lot of different things, Tech, here. Although they're backed out, look for maybe some pressure coming from somewhere in the middle.
Dantzler has rushed for 150, passed for 139. He's going to take off. He gets a great block from Zachary again. And it looks like a 1st down at the 42. Jeremy Myers forced him out. The official chains are on the far side, but he ran past the orange marker on the ground on the near side. which approximates the chains on the near side.
How important is Travis Zachary to this offense? Lined up, split left as a wide out that time, goes out, locks up the defensive back. If he doesn't sustain his block, that's not a first down. Clemson punts it away. So all of the little things, we know he can score touchdowns. But it's all those little things he does as a fullback. Now he splits out and blocks for Dantzler that really has made things go today.
Dantzler says Zachary's the most versatile back in the conference. Who could argue with what we've seen today? Carries this time. Out to the 46. The conclusion of today's game will select a Chevrolet player of the game from each team. Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund. You think Woodrow Dantzler has a chance on the Clemson side today?
How about balanced offense? 21 rushes, 21 pass attempts. In his mind, I think he might be keeping count. He wants to keep it even.
21 rushes just for Dantzler. Zachary in trouble and dropped for a loss. Tripped up back at the 44-yard line by Matthew Etheridge, playing very well for the injured Darrell Smith. He was a walk-on out of Macon, Georgia, primarily a special teams player until today. Clemson lately doing well on 3rd down and 4th down. 8 out of 13 on 3rd down today. Brad Scott says one of the reasons they've been good all year on 3rd down, they've kept it in manageable distance. This one is certainly manageable. Hamilton breaks a tackle and picks up the first down. He wouldn't have had the first down had he not bounced off the first man. First down, Clemson at the 46 of Georgia Tech.
And that's Aether Brown, number 43 out there, trying to cover. A linebacker had to walk because of the spread formation by Clemson. 2 receivers over to the left. And this is what Ted Roof said. We have to wrap up and make the tackle. That time Brown never got a hold of him. And a good job by Hamilton fighting forward for the extra yardage.
That'll be the final play of the 3rd quarter. The score, Clemson 27, Georgia Tech 26. ABC Sports presentation of college football will return after this message and a word from our ABC station. Four lead changes today. Clemson with a 1-point lead in the ball. 1st and 10 at the Georgia Tech 46, the first play of the 4th quarter. Dantzler after the ball fake, looking deep, throws, has his man Hamilton. First down to the 20-yard line. Derek Hamilton. Brad Scott said one of his greatest strengths, perhaps his greatest, his ability to run after the catch. And he found some running room on the perfect strike from Dantzler, 27-yard gain.
And right here, running all the way across the field is Hamilton, and that is Ricardo Wimbush. Although an undersized linebacker, it's still a linebacker trying to chase all the way across the field, locked up one-on-one. That's a matchup Clemson will win every time.
7 catches for Hamilton. Dantzler in trouble, still got off the screen. Zachary belted out of bounds at the 14-yard line. Matthew Etheridge again came on a linebacker blitz that made them throw the screen earlier than they wanted to. Dantzler threw a pop-up, but Zachary caught it and made it into a gain. Aaron Fox took him out of bounds.
And when you look at Dantzler just as a quarterback, we know how well he runs with the ball. That's a fantastic play. He bought as much time as he could because he knew it was taking a second to develop, continued the backup. Brad Scott made a nice call. The speed of Georgia Tech defense, you just can't defend that.
Zachary bounces off some would-be tacklers and has a first down. And George O'Leary told Leslie Goodell at halftime the tackling's been terrible for Georgia Tech, and it's hurt them here in the second half as well. Chris Young and Corey Collins finally made the stop, but it's 1st and goal for Clemson.
And add to the list of tools that Travis Zachary has, very strong hands. As Corey Collins goes in there and does everything he can, Zachary still moving forward, but not letting go of that pigskin.
Well, he tried to pull the ball out. Zachary with a great effort got a couple of extra yards. 1st and goal from the 7. And you have to give Brad Scott and the offensive staff and this offensive unit credit, because really they don't have the ability without the receivers who can go deep to throw the ball down the field, but they're doing everything else they can with the run game and the short and intermediate passing to maximize what they can do.
Well, and this is a guy, Brad Scott, and the guy to his right, Mike O'Kane and Tommy Bowden. They've coached a lot of different offenses through the years, and I think what they've had to do is just patch together with this guy, obviously, with the ball in his hand, patch together things with all these guys down.
Tech showing blitz off the corner, and it comes. Dantzler throws, deflected and incomplete. Off the hands of Zachary near the 2-yard line. And it'll be 3rd down and goal from the 6.
And this is one of the things that Clemson has been working on, is more across the middle type throws. Well, this time Travis Zachary got there a little early because that ball was actually intended for Morgan Woodward, the tight end, who came open right over the goal line. But because they crossed at the same time, there's no way Zachary knows that that ball's not intended for him.
415 yards of offense for Clemson at the start of the 4th quarter, but just a 1-point lead. A big 3rd down and goal for the 6. Dantzler with time throws in the flag thrown in the end zone. Not near the receiver Hamilton, who was covered by Jeremy Myers, where there might have been holding or some sort of interference away from the pass in the end zone.
Yeah, I think they got Corey Collins on Aries Curry, a true freshman who was trying to get to the back of the end zone. At the end of the play, it looked like Corey Collins had knocked down Curry.
Holding on the defense. Half the distance to the goal. Automatic 1st down.
Here's Curry right here. Watch him the whole way as he's fighting to get, no question, the hands. And even though it's contact, because Curry goes down and Collins had his hands on him, he got called for it.
These are the kinds of things that drive George O'Leary crazy. So many coaches, they all preach discipline and not making mistakes, but George O'Leary preaches that as much as anyone. More so. Zachary with a couple of extra blockers in. Tight formation. Jeremy Myers made the stop inside the 2-yard line. Down to 13 minutes remaining now in the 4th quarter. Clemson with a 1-point lead and knocking on the door.
And talk about what they're doing, what Clemson is doing right now, is they're allowing all those young guys on defense for Clemson to get their legs back underneath of him. Watch when Reggie Herring comes back out on defense, how many times he's going to blitz George Godsey.
2 fullbacks in the game, leading the way for Zachary, who's stacked up at the line of scrimmage. De'Aaron Fox leading that defensive surge.
And Zachary's really been their guy down around the goal line. 2 touchdowns already today on short runs. But with a guy like number 1 in at quarterback, Sean, I think you might want to try something. Get him out on a perimeter. Let him have a run-pass option.
Clemson 9 out of 14 on 3rd down against Ted Roof's defense, and 2 for 2 on 4th down today. Zachary again. Stopped. Bounces into the end zone. Touchdown. They had him stopped at the 1, but he twisted in for the Clemson score.
Showing his frustration. He has this play beat. He has the numbers. Everybody out there on the wing is ready to defend this. He's got plenty of bodies. Gathers down up high. He had a linebacker down low, but it was Zachary with that lower body strength that won the battle.
Aaron Hunt for an 8-point lead. And the sophomore from Oak Ridge, Tennessee adds the extra point. Dantzler's been the headliner, but Zachary has been much more than a bit player today with his running, receiving, and blocking. And the Tigers lead by 8. 3 touchdowns today for Travis Zachary, adding to his Clemson record now 45 career touchdowns. They've gone back to Tony Lazara to kick off. They've had problems with kickoffs out of bounds. Have the Tigers, the last 2. This one's in play and down a yard deep into the end zone to the ever-dangerous Kelly Campbell. Finally taken down at the 26-yard line.
Number 6, Kelly Campbell on the return.
Leroy Hill made the tackle. ABC Sports presentation of college football is brought to you by Budweiser, with the crisp, plain, refreshing taste you'll find in no other beer. By Chrysler, drive equals love. By Valvoline's Max Life, the first motor oil formulated for higher mileage engines. And by Sprint PCS, the clear alternative to cellular. George Godsey, in his career, great fourth quarter quarterback. He throws it in the flat. Caught for no gain, perhaps even a loss. Charles Hafley, the safety, up to put the immediate hit on Russell Madvey. But it was Godsey who led them on that memorable winning drive last year at Clemson. And he's had other standout performances in the fourth quarter. 73 career completion percentage in the fourth quarter. Last year at Clemson, 21 passes in the fourth quarter, 14 of them completed. Burns for a first down to the 37-yard line, tackled by John Leake.
Well, and the thing for Godsey, when he talks about the fourth quarter, you've really got a good feel of what the defense has been doing. But because Clemson's defense is so fresh right now, because of the running game that they've established on offense, Reggie Herring can continue to throw different looks at Godsey.
Godsey throws, caught. Jonathan Smith breaks a tackle. And John Leake way downfield to make the tackle at the 50. Brian Mance missed the tackle. Leake came to his aid. A 13-yard gain.
And this is where Reggie Herring gets so frustrated with that man, George Godsey. He had him dead to rights. Number 91, Bryant McNeil, came free right off the snap. But Godsey has that ability to throw the ball before his receivers come out of their cuts, knowing exactly where they're going to be. And even though he's not elusive, he's tough to sack.
Godsey going deep. Lots of contact and flags thrown. There will be pass interference on Kevin Johnson. He had his hands all over Kelly Campbell as that ball was in the air. And of course, in college football, the walk-off will just be from the line of scrimmage.
What a really...
Pass interference on the defense. 15 yards. Previous spot. Automatic first down.
And what a really savvy move by Campbell. Watch as the ball's in the air, how he uses his body to shield himself, and it makes the defensive back come over the top, Johnson, because Campbell actually slowed down for a second to try to find the ball. It's a really nice move by him.
Versus in the pros, they'd be putting that ball much deeper down the field. In college, it's 15 from the line of scrimmage, the ball to the 35-yard line, but Georgia Tech crisply on the move. 8 penalties against Clemson for 73 yards. Georgia Tech penalized 5 times. 2 tight ends into the game now for the Jackets. Burns trying to turn the corner. First down, out of bounds at the 20. Kevin Johnson ran him out. 3-2, let's go! 15 yards on the gain for Burns.
Watch the crack block right here by Kelly Campbell on Hafley. Helmet to helmet. We just saw Campbell make a nice play on a deep throw. That time comes in motion. Now the cornerback Johnson has to be yelling at Hafley, crack, crack. I guarantee Hafley went to him and said, hey, thanks for the ear hole, pal.
86 yards rushing and 17 carries. They tried Burns up the middle this time. And he stopped for no gain by Khalid Vaughn. Here's Leslie.
Sean, George Godsey said Coach O'Leary addressed the team after last weekend's losses to Clemson and Florida State and told them they need to come together as a team. They can't look past anyone. He also pointed out that they control their own destiny and there's no playing catch-up. One thing they do have time for is to catch up before this game's over.
And Godsey, the rear option keep, and the pitch to a wide receiver, Kerry Watkins. Bill O'Brien, the offensive coordinator, into his bag of tricks, and they're very near a first down to the 11-yard line.
And this is where you see Bill O'Brien. What he learned from Ralph Regan was do a lot of things that look similar, but then run different plays. That time, Watkins came in motion, just like the play earlier where Campbell came in and crack block, and instead of using him to crack, they use him as the pitch man. Nice play.
3rd down and 1. Burns up at fullback has the first down. A gain of 2 for Burns. 282 yards of total offense today for Georgia Tech. So Reggie Herring has to feel pretty good about that. But one of the big differences in the game, Georgia Tech's run only 51 offensive plays where Clemson's run 71. And the time of possession more than 28 minutes, 28:01 for Clemson. 19:58 through 3 quarters for Georgia Tech. Burns right up the middle, down to the 1-yard line. Charles Hafley and Kevin Johnson prevented the touchdown. And Ed, we go back to when it was 19-7 and George O'Leary went for 2 and didn't get it. We said later he might want that 1 point. He'd like that 1 point right now.
Yeah, because now he's forced
to go for 2 if they score the touchdown here. And they do score the touchdown. Joe Burns in. Touchdown, Georgia Tech, 2 points away from another tie.
And again, confusion for Clemson. J.J. Howard had to run right here, had to run all the way on the field. You see he gets his hand down on the line of scrimmage right there. Double team on a 220-pound defensive end who had to run in from the sideline to be the 11th player. He gets blown out. Burns follows that double team right into the end zone.
Twice they've tried to go for 2. They only got a playoff once. The other time they got a delay of game. They wound up kicking instead. Gonzi throws, deflected and intercepted by Hafley. So it's still a 2-point game. Watkins upset because he was open and the ball a little bit behind him and picked off. Still a 2-point lead for Clemson.
I'd like to thank you for your continued support.
Clemson leads by 2. Nearly midway through the 4th quarter. And as we look at the Chrysler Drive summary, the last 4 possessions for Clemson, all of them touchdown drives, one of 79 yards and the other 3, all of them 80 yards.
And we have talked about how they don't have a deep threat. What Clemson has been very good at this year, though, is long drives. Every one of their games, they've been very good at sustaining drives. Last year, they had the ability with Rod Gardner and Kevin Youngblood to go deep. Now they just churn it out.
Luke Monge with a line drive kick. Taken on a bounce by Brian Maines. He's hit from behind and knocked down to the 24-yard line. Tackled by Kelly Rhino.
Sean, we mentioned the 2-point conversion that came back to haunt George O'Leary that he went for 2 earlier in the game, and now Clemson with the ball and control. I mean, he's got to be sitting there thinking, I'm down 2, and the way they've run the ball, things not looking really good for his squad.
Yeah, I think he's going to rethink going for the 2 when it was 19-7. It wasn't as if they had missed an extra point to get off the number and had a couple of field goals. Dantzler hit as he throws, and it's a wobbly pass over the head of Matt Bailey. Matthew Etheridge, who's been blitzing regularly from his linebacker spot, put a pretty good lick on Woody Dantzler.
And Etheridge had to come in for Darrell Smith. He's a guy who's played a ton because Navy and Citadel, they were blowouts. He got a lot of snaps in those games. (34-32) Clemson. Just under 8 minutes to go here in Atlanta. Dantzler buried for a loss back inside the 20 by Greg Gathers. Gathers is walking around like he might have a cramp in his calf. But when you have guys like Greg Gathers and Nick Rogers, who's been very, very quiet. Gathers has had a good game. Nick Rogers, we haven't heard much. But right now, Rogers and Gathers are lined up on the same side of the offensive line. Defensive tackle Gathers, Nick Rogers outside. They're trying to get some one-on-ones on that side.
Deafening noise from the sellout crowd here in Atlanta. 3rd down and 16. Dantzler going deep. And incomplete. Looking for J.J. McKelvey. Excellent coverage by Chris Young, running stride for stride for the Clemson offense, which has dominated the Georgia Tech defense on its last 4 possessions. Forced to punt, 3 plays and out.
And that time, a guy that needed to make a play. You've got 4 or 5 guys on this Georgia Tech defense that can step up. That time for George O'Leary, it was the big play by Gathers, lost yardage. And there again, you see that Clemson just does not have a deep threat that they can go to on a regular basis.
Kelly Rhino back to receive the punt from Wynn Kopp. Appeared to juggle the snap for a moment. Another short, wobbly punt. They ran into Rhino, and a flag thrown. Rhino took a hit from Toure Francis. So Clemson will be penalized, and Georgia Tech, down by 2, is likely to begin this possession in Clemson territory. Georgia Tech has had the field position advantage all day.
And I believe Kelly Rhino is a theater major. Although he was run into, he flopped around pretty good after getting hit by Francis.
Kick catching interference on the kicking team. That's a personal foul. 15 yards.
Wow.
First down.
Well, I think Tommy Bowden agrees with you. Rhino, by the way, is a management major. Maybe he's taking some acting classes.
I knew you'd know that.
The ball goes to the 40-yard line. 6:57 left. 3 timeouts left for Georgia Tech. Only 1 for Clemson. An impressive drive moments ago by the Yellow Jackets. They scored a touchdown on their last possession to get within 2. Just a 2-point try. Burns. Gain of 7 on first down. Brian Mance got run over by Burns while making the tackle. Mance saved the touchdown, but he's slow to get up, and you can understand why. Burns, a powerfully built 5'11", 205 pounds.
And watch Kelly Campbell one more time come from the right side of your screen and lay out a defender. Drives him right by the play. He got up and flexed to the sideline. That's a couple of times that we've seen Kelly Campbell, known for his great speed, get really nice blocks downfield to help out his teammate.
Mance helped off a big loss to that defense. He's a junior. Really their best cover corner with the departure from the program of Alex Ardley.
And now, Sean, you know, you talked earlier about a nice job of Bill O'Brien looking for matchups. Now let's find out who comes in for Mance. And if I'm Bill O'Brien, I put Kelly Campbell in some kind of motion, try to get him to that side, wherever that coverage is, and try to get my fastest receiver one-on-one on a backup.
They have Ryan Hemby, a redshirt freshman at one corner. Kevin Johnson, a sophomore, first-year starter at the other. Hafley and Meekins, veteran safeties.
Hemby's up top right here. Let's see if they try to pick on the new guy.
He has seen some time out there today. Burns, nifty move, first down. Powering down to the 26-yard line. Chad Carson, the Atlanta area native, who grew up a Georgia Tech fan. His dad played here at Georgia Tech. It came down to Georgia Tech and Clemson. He said, I just like the Clemson campus and college environment a little bit better, but otherwise I cheer for Tech. He said it was that heartbreaking loss and the fact that he's never defeated Georgia Tech that motivated him to work out hard all summer long. Sidney Ford, the ball carrier. Toure Francis, a reserve defensive back, made the stop, but the Tech offense starting to get it in chunks now.
And how about Jason Kemble, the right tackle? A fifth-year senior who hadn't played very much, comes into this season. They have to rely on him. That time, Sean, in the vernacular, he had himself a pancake. He blew up the right side of that line.
Ross Mitchell in at fullback now on 2nd and 4 from just inside the 20. Burns, the gain of 1. Rodney Thomas made the tackle. 5:15 of the clock running remaining in the fourth quarter. Georgia Tech down by 2. They have an excellent field goal kicker in Luke Manger. And look at the numbers. 9 of the last 11 between these two decided by 4 points or less. Each of the last 5 decided by exactly 3 points. Tech's won the last 4 of those. That's been the motivator for Carson and the Tigers. First down. Down at the 11-yard line. John Leake made the tackle with help from Eric Meekins.
This time it's the left side of the offensive line. Going to pull across the formation. The counter play, that's big Nat Dorsey, a true freshman out of New Orleans, who's the backside tackle now. He started and has played the whole game. Very excited about him. Reggie Herring's guys, they needed to close down that gap a little faster. That defense that seemed fresh midway through the third quarter, they got a lot of hands on hips now.
Back to the I formation. Burns lined up at fullback again. He takes it to the 10. And you think about the 2 timeouts Clemson burned earlier. We speculated the time might be a factor. It's looking like a factor now.
Well, and it's becoming a factor, especially when Ford and Burns start to get going. And O'Leary and his staff, Bill O'Brien, watch the game clock. I bet you that they have told George Godsey, let this thing run down. Let's eat some of this clock as we're down in their territory.
Again, a likely try for 2, which has been a disaster so far today for Georgia Tech.
A great job of play calling by Bill O'Brien. Just go with what you have. You've got 2 very good running backs, both about the same. Sidney Ford maybe a little more burst.
And the trouble continues on the tries for 2 as Godsey lost the ball on the exchange. Looked like he might have been trying to pull it out and run an option. 6 lead changes today. And the latest lead belongs to Georgia Tech. 38-34 with just under 4 minutes left in Atlanta. No, it doesn't get much better than Georgia Tech Clemson over the last decade. Last year's meeting, one of the best college football games of the season. Won by Georgia Tech with 7 seconds to go, 31-28. At the time, Clemson was undefeated and ranked number 4 in the country. Both teams scored in that one in the last 2 minutes. Still plenty of time left for heroics in this one. Monge with a short kickoff this time for Derek Hamilton. He escapes. Hamilton. Terrific run back to the 40-yard line. Looked like they'd collar him near the 25. Finally, James Butler got him down at the 40. One of the things that was appealing about Hamilton to the coaches, he returned 8 kickoffs for touchdowns as a senior in high school. Travis Zachary with a typical day. He's the touchdown maker for Clemson. Their all-time leading touchdown scorer, and he's had 3 today, all from in close. When they get near the goal line, they look to Zachary to punch it in, and they hope he has 1 more left in him. That's our Pacific Life game summary. Dantzler. Another great block from Zachary, and Dantzler gets 5 and gets out of bounds at the 45. Shoved out by Chris Young with 3:31 left.
Well, the linebackers from Georgia Tech have to be awfully tired of seeing number 8 without the ball in his hands, because every time Clemson runs this little quarterback, it's almost like an isolation play where Dantzler becomes the running back. Zachary has gotten an absolutely picture-perfect cut block on a linebacker from Georgia Tech.
1 timeout left for Clemson, 3 for Georgia Tech. Certainly right now, plenty of time for Clemson to go the length of the field and score. Dantzler under pressure, sets up a screen. Rambert couldn't catch it. He had all kinds of open field, but the ball was a little high and through the hands of Bernard Rambert. That was a very promising looking play when the ball left Dantzler's hand, but the throw was just too high.
You kind of get shades of 1993 at Florida State. The last time that Brad Scott was an offensive coordinator at the college level. Now, he called his own plays while he was at South Carolina. He was the offensive coordinator for Florida State. Charlie Ward as his quarterback. Very similar offense that you can run with Dantzler.
3rd down and 5. Dantzler Tried to run the quarterback draw. They were ready for it this time. He's buried at the 42, a loss of 3. Greg Gathers and Tony Hargrove. And a decision again for Coach Bowden with those timeouts that they burned earlier in the half. If you punt it away, you have only 1 timeout left. You almost have to go for it. It looks like they will.
And Sean, you mentioned that back when Tommy Bowden took that timeout, thinking about going for it on 4th down. Well, there's not much of a decision to be made here. He has to go for it.
If he had 3 timeouts, it's a different story. You could punt, but with 1, he'll go for it on 4th and 8. 2 for 2 today. They've been excellent on 3rd down as well. 10 for 17 on 3rd down. Flag down. They didn't get the play off.
Oh, boy. Well, it was a mistake.
Dead ball. Delay of the game. On the offense.
Wow.
It was a mistake, as you mentioned, Sean, to get rid of some timeouts early. You wonder if he had 2. If he had 3, he would definitely punt it away. But now they don't get the play in on time, being signaled in by Rick Stockstill. And now what was a makeable 4th down now becomes a wing and a prayer on this distance.
Not much of a vertical passing game as we've seen today. They did have the 155-yard touchdown pass, but that was mostly on the run after a misplay by a cornerback. They need 13 realistically to keep their hopes of winning this one alive. Only a 4-man rush. Dantzler throwing it deep, has a man open. My goodness, McKelvey, touchdown!
A mistake. Bottom of your screen right here. He gets caught peeking into the backfield. He goes up thinking Dantzler's going to run and moves forward. He loses sight of McKelvey. One-on-one coverage. You cannot peek into the backfield. You have to stay with your man the entire time.
A colossal error on defense by Georgia Tech. How can you let that happen in that situation? The extra point, big. It is good by Aaron Hunt. George O'Leary and the Yellow Jackets are down by 3 with 1:58 left to go. McKelvey, a 63-yard reception, longest of the season for the Tigers. J.J. McKelvey with a huge play, 63-yard touchdown reception on 4th down and 13. His 3rd touchdown of the year, the junior from Moncks Corner, South Carolina. But 1:58 left. And 3 timeouts for Tech. In a game now eerily reminiscent of last season's meeting at Death Valley. Here comes Kelly Campbell. Flag down. Might have been a hold on the return. He went down to the 24-yard line.
Yeah, they got Ross Mitchell.
Holding on the return. 10 yards. Spot of the foul. First down.
Last year up at Death Valley, Clemson went ahead 28-24 on a Willie Simmons to Rod Gardner touchdown pass with 1:52 left, but Godsey led them the length of the field. 80-yard drive, capped with 7 seconds left on a 16-yard touchdown pass to Kerry Watkins. And Georgia Tech won for the 4th straight year by 3. Each the last 5 meetings decided by 3 points. Right now it's a 3-point Clemson lead. On the penalty for holding on the return, the ball at the 10-yard line. 90 yards for a winning touchdown, but all they need to do is get into field goal range. They have an excellent kicker, and they have a lot of running room for Kerry Watkins. Out of bounds. Out to the 34. They wanted a late hit on the sideline. They didn't get it. Kevin Johnson pushed him out.
Kerry Watkins is a guy that George Godsey can line up anywhere. He can play every receiver. He can play the slot. We've seen him carry the ball as the pitch man. That time came all the way across the formation. Had that amazing catch last year against Clemson. and very quickly makes another big play in the fourth quarter for Georgia Tech against Clemson.
Out of bounds to stop the clock. Godsey flag down to the secondary. He was looking for the tight end, McKelvey. The official threw the flag, also threw his hat. He might have seen 2 infractions on the same play. McKelvey, the intended receiver. Braxton K. Williams had the coverage.
Well, I think you're gonna have a holding, Sean, and then you're gonna have a pass interference, because I think McKelvey may have been held early by a linebacker.
We had 2 fouls on the defense, illegal participation, 12 players, and we had pass interference on the defense. We're penalized 15 yards, previous block, first down.
Sean, you got to wonder what's going on Clemson sideline. That is 3 times today that they've had problems with who is on and off the field personnel. J.J. Howard had to run all the way on that Burns touchdown. He gets blown out. They had to burn a timeout on a 4th down when they were going for it. They had problems getting their personnel in for that play.
So the ball's out near midfield. 49-yard line of Georgia Tech. 1st and 10. Minute 37. All 3 timeouts left for the Yellow Jackets, down by 3. 11 penalties against Clemson. 108 yards. Ball caught. Crossing pattern. Kelly Campbell. First down at the Tiger 38. They're getting very close to field goal range now for Luc Manger. His career long is 50. That's the longest attempt of his career. He has a very good leg, and he's very accurate.
And now Georgia Tech is in a spot where they can do anything they want offensively with this much time and timeouts.
Over the middle, they're trying the crossing pattern again, looking for Kerry Watkins. The coverage from Braxton K. Williams. If time permits, stay tuned for the Thrifty Car Rental postgame report featuring scores and highlights from across the country. There have been a lot of thrillers around college football today. And this one stands right there with any other played around the nation on this college football Saturday. On the 38, 2nd and 10. Godsey throws, caught. Jonathan Smith, a very short gain. And a timeout called, leaving Georgia Tech with 2 timeouts. The Jackets will be looking at 3rd and 5 when we return to Atlanta. Third down and 5 out of the shotgun. Inside handoff. Burns very close to a first down. John Leake made the tackle, but Burns dragged him for a bit and appeared to get the first down, saving George O'Leary what would have been a very difficult decision right there, whether to try the long field goal or go for it on 4th down.
And make no mistake about it, George O'Leary is not playing for a tie here, but because of their situation with timeouts and time, they can run their entire offense still.
2 timeouts left. Godsey, pump fake, throws, and it is caught on the far sideline. Kelly Campbell inside the 9.
Brian Mance is on the sideline. The best cornerback, the best cover corner for Clemson, was injured in the 3rd quarter, has not come back out. This time, they try the pump and go right up top to Kelly Campbell. Well, Francis was in perfect spot, and they underthrew the ball. What a great throw.
Godsey's pass incomplete. After the 24-yard completion to Campbell got them to the 7. That ball hit Campbell in the chest with Toure Francis in tight coverage. Incomplete. 3-point lead for Clemson. 46 seconds left. Georgia Tech with 2nd down and goal from the 7 and 2 timeouts remaining.
In a very difficult position for Georgia Tech, because you cannot get the first down. You don't want to blow the fact that you've got a gimme shot at a field goal inside the 10.
Godsey 4 out of 6 on this drive. Hands it off to Burns, and that did not fool the Tiger defense. A loss of 1 on the play. Rodney Thomas and Maurice Fountain combining on the stop. And another timeout used by the Yellow Jackets, leaving Each team now with 1 timeout.
Now, Sean, you got to do something safe here. You've got your field goal lined up, ready to go. You might want to get it more to the middle of the field if that's what you're going to play to, because this close, with the way the hashes are, it makes that such a tough angle to kick the field goal. I think that what they should try is a very safe play. Try a fade into the corner of the end zone. We either get the touchdown or we come back and kick the field goal.
You can tell by this conversation, George Godsey has a lot of input into the play calling. When we talked with Bill O'Brien yesterday, he said the greatest attribute Godsey has, he's very smart. He takes films home every week, 3 films every Sunday. And Wednesday when he comes into my office, I ask him first, what did you see? What do you think we can do? And within the course of the game, he has a great feel for what he thinks they can and cannot do. So I bet they listen very intently to what he said before deciding on this critical play call.
And a lot of times you can't even listen to players because all they want to say is, oh, let's throw it long. He actually has good input as to what kind of play they may run here.
Certainly you want to be careful with the ball because you're in great field goal range, but you also have a great chance to try to win it right here. Go for the end zone, but be safe. Out of the gun. Godsey, short pass, short of the end zone. And they tackle him at the 3-yard line. Kerry Watkins in the crowd. And it will be a 20-yard field goal try from a tough angle. Bear in mind one fact. Manger has never missed an extra point. And a 20-yard field goal is the equivalent of an extra point, except you don't kick it from this angle. But he has the all-time ACC record for career extra points.
Sean, I was in college when the NCAA moved in the uprights to what they play in the NFL. Well, all of the coaches said that they also wanted the hashes moved in for just this purpose, because when the ball is on the right hash inside the 10-yard line, it becomes a very difficult angle for Manger to get this ball through. If you could see the angle from which he has to kick, that you take 18 feet 8 inches, turn it sideways, it looks like it's about 7 feet wide from where he'll be kicking.
He's 2 for 2 today in extra points, so he's made 109 in a row. He's never missed an extra point. The only difference, as we point out, the angle now, obviously, and it's a big difference. The ACC record, career extra points. He had 3 field goals last year in their victory at Clemson by 3. He's 2 for 2 in field goals today. Good from 22 and from 47. This to tie it up and likely force overtime. It is good. Just about as close to automatic as it gets, but you know George O'Leary's heart rate was still well above where it usually is. 6 seconds left, and overtime looming on the horizon.
And here we go again. A Clemson-Georgia Tech game coming right down to the wire, but with 6 seconds left. And Woody Dantzler, we've already seen some of the things that he's able to do in impossible situations. No question you want to try to squib this ball down the field and get the clock to run out before Woody Dantzler can come out and take a snap.
Well, we have a tough act to follow next Saturday here on ABC Sports, but we're going to bring you more great college football regional action at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. The defending national champions Oklahoma, ranked number 3, coming off their big win today against K-State. They'll be taking on Chris Sims and number 5 Texas. Some of you will see Michigan and Penn State.
Luke Manger now try to squib this down around to the 30-20-yard line of Clemson. Make them eat a little more of this clock up. You don't even want to give a chance to Woody Dantzler to run around and heave one towards the end zone.
For the second year in a row, both Clemson and Georgia Tech have scored in the last 2 minutes. Georgia Tech with a field goal seconds ago, and they had a great chance to score a touchdown. The field goal tied it. Derek Hamilton on the last play of regulation Tackled at the 21-yard line. We'll be back with overtime from Atlanta right after these messages. Very early in the season, but a critical game in the ACC and with national implications as well. As Tommy Bowden said, it's unlikely you could win the ACC title with 2 losses. Clemson already has 1. Georgia Tech's playing in its first conference game of the season, and already Florida State has a conference loss. Here are the rules. It's not sudden death. Each team guaranteed at least 1 possession. Every possession begins on the opposing team's 25. You're on offense, just play regular football from the 25 in.
All right, man, here's the way this is going to work.
Score a touchdown. The team on defense knows what it has to do, so that's why.
Whether they want the ball first or to be on defense first. The loser decides which end of the field we go to.
Go on defense
If
first.
we go second overtime, we reverse that.
And then after the first set of possessions,
In the air,
if it is still tied, and then they get to re-choose the team that didn't win
you
the
get to make the
toss.
decision. You want to be on defense. Which end you want to defend this end. You want to be back this way. This one down there. This way for you. We're going to go down here and play. You're going to have the ball first. You're going to have the ball first because Clemson chose defense. You're going to be down here. All right? Clemson wins the toss and will be on defense first. We'll play at this end of the field.
ABC Sports coverage of college football will return after this message and a word from our local station. Back in Atlanta, Sean McDonough, Ed Cunningham, Leslie Goodell ready for overtime. Clemson and Georgia Tech. First possession belongs to Georgia Tech from the Clemson 25. You can get first downs. It's just regular football. Burns on the carry to the 24-yard line. A gain of 1. Trey Francis playing for the injured Brian Mance. Tripped him up. Clemson 1-0 in its history in overtime. Georgia Tech 2-1.
Joe Burns very quietly has gone close to 130 yards rushing on the day. Had kind of a slow start. He's played fullback, tailback. He's even lined out as a split. Had a very productive afternoon.
Godsey forced back, lobs it up, and it is caught in traffic by Jonathan Smith near a first down at the 16-yard line. It was almost a disaster for Georgia Tech. If that one gets picked off, all Clemson would have to do is kick a field goal when it gets the ball at the 25 to win the game.
And they're trying to set up a screen, Sean, to the middle of the field. He's actually trying to go to Joe Burns, and Jonathan Smith sees a jump ball and very wisely goes up and makes a play on it.
Third down, a little over a yard, and they don't get it. Burns lined up at fullback again. And now a decision for George O'Leary. Do you try a field goal, take a 3-point lead, then Clemson could beat you with a touchdown on its possession? Or do you go for it, risk getting no points, then they could beat you with a field goal?
And he very wisely take a timeout here. You get a timeout each. You have to talk about it because the way that Woody Dantzler has played in this game and Clemson on defense first, I don't know that you're happy walking away with 3 points.
Well, George O'Leary will be asked a lot of questions after this game. All the issues about the 2-point tries during the game. After they missed the first time, the situations really seemed to dictate they had to keep trying to go for the 2. They did play, it seemed to me, yet a little bit conservatively at the end of regulation when they kicked the field goal to tie it, but had a great chance to win the game with a touchdown and never really did aggressively go into the end zone.
Yeah, and he's an old defensive guy, George O'Leary, and that sometimes happens when an old defensive coordinator becomes a head coach. They tend to play it a little more conservative and have trust in their defense.
Timeouts on the scoreboard. Georgia Tech has no timeouts. Clemson has 1.
Well, it's a full yard to go, so he's going to lean on his very solid field goal man, Monge, the junior from Conyers, Georgia. But again, it's from the right hash mark, a 33-yard field goal. And it is good. So a 3-point lead for Georgia Tech. Now Clemson will get the ball at the Tech 25. They'll play at the same end of the field. And if Tommy Bowden and the Tigers kick a field goal, there'll be a second overtime. If they score a touchdown, they win. If they don't score any points on their possession, they lose.
And that's why you choose to go on defense first. Now you know precisely what you have to do. And the reason Georgia Tech decided they want to defend this end zone is because of the fans they have. On one side of the stadium, they have a building. On the side that Clemson will be going into are most of the fans here at Bobby Dodd Stadium. So now crowd noise can become a factor.
The kicking game for Clemson not quite as solid as Georgia Tech's. Zachary on the swing pass got leveled at the 21-yard line by Ricardo Wimbush, the junior from Blakely, Georgia.
Remember, a turnover and hits like this are the ones that cause turnovers. This would count as Clemson's possession. What a great tackle by Wimbush, fighting off the block of Matt Bailey.
They turn it over, game over. 2nd and 6. Out of the gun, inside handoff. Bernard Rambert to the 20, and that's all. Aaron Hunt, the sophomore, is the field goal kicker for Clemson. He came around toward the end of last year after a shaky start. And he has been in some pressure situations. Last year, you'll recall, he kicked a 25-yard field goal to beat South Carolina with 3 seconds left.
Remember, Clemson, all they got to do is pick up the first down to keep this thing going.
3rd and 5 for the first down. And it is caught. A terrific catch by McKelvey right along the 15. They will spot it on the yard line to give him the first down. Tremendous catch by J.J. McKelvey, who had the electrifying 63-yard touchdown earlier on 4th down and 13 when it appeared to be coming down to that one last-ditch play for Clemson.
Things looking so much better right now for Tommy Bowden, because on the 15, get inside the 5 to pick up another first down.
Rambert, the back, lined up to the left of Dantzler. He takes the handoff up the middle to the 11. A gain of 4. It'll be 2nd and 6.
Remember earlier in the game, Sean, when Rambert had to come out for fumbling the ball. I don't know if something was wrong with Zachary, if he was getting taped up or whatever, but I don't understand how that guy was not in the ball game.
Well, he's in there now. Already with 3 touchdowns today. Usually when they get down close, Zachary's the man, but Dantzler's about due to call his own number as well. Dantzler looked to the sideline, might have changed the original play call. Dantzler throwing it to the end zone. It is incomplete. Intended for McKelvey. Chris Young broke it up. McKelvey with 4 inches advantage at 6'4" over the 6-footer Young.
Young was switched to cornerback last year. He'd been playing strong safety for the Clemson game for Rod Gardner. Oh, that ball is in his hands, Sean. It was not the play by Chris Young, although very tight coverage. Never had it clean before he hit the ground. He should have been able to make a play on that.
Had the wind in his hands and dropped it. 3rd down and 6. Dantzler keeps it. Dantzler, touchdown! Clemson wins! Dantzler due to call his own number. He did. And Clemson has the victory. 6th year in a row, the Clemson-Georgia Tech game is decided by 3 points. The previous 4 went to Georgia Tech. This one a pulsating win for the Tigers, and Tommy Bowden's with Leslie.
Well, Coach, you guys have a flair for the dramatic when it comes to these 2 games, but you guys come out on top this time. How big is it?
Well, 6 years, 3-point game, and we've lost it close 2 years in a row. I was glad our boys, we were really banged up, really hurt, and I was really proud of the players and the coaches.
You didn't know how they would come out after last week's loss. You said you had no idea.
No, because the team changes every year, and you never know the chemistry and the personality, but they showed a lot of fight. I was really proud of them.
Talk more about the perseverance of this team, as banged up as they are.
Well, Woody. I just thought they did just a good job. It was really banged up, great job.
Think this guy had something to do with it?
Well, yeah, he's a champ. He does. He's tough.
Woody, you wanted this game so bad. In this win, how big is this for you?
I've been here 5 years. It's my 5th year. I haven't beaten these guys yet. And it's just a great feeling to come out in there in a hostile environment and come out with a win.
As beat up as your defense is, you know that the offense had to take control. Did you step it up today?
We knew that. We knew that from the jump. My boys up front, TJ, Kyle, Will. That's all they were talking about. We got to run. We got to pull this game out. It's on us. This team is. We got to carry this team. So that's what we took it, and you see what happened.
Thanks, Woody.
This early in the season, the only 2 remaining undefeated teams in conference play in the ACC are Maryland and Virginia. Every other ACC team has at least 1 conference loss. Today, Chevrolet players of the game are Woodrow Dantzler, who passed for 254 yards and 2 touchdowns and ran for 153 yards and 1 touchdown, the game winner, and Joe Burns of Georgia Tech.
Woody gonna run, quarterback draw, first down, touchdown, Tigers win, baby. Tigers win as Woody Dantzler on the quarterback draw, a play that had been a big one for him all day long. Did it one more time.